Welcome, everybody. I hope everybody can hear me. I decided to do a YouTube live stream, which caused untold number of problems, including bells ringing, phone calls, and many other things. Hopefully, I am live and people can hear me. So, I decided to start role-playing again and trying to get it going online. That'll be the focus of this. So I've been a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons, any role playing system, tabletop mostly, and video games too in that sense. I started writing, wrote a book in 2012, and I would say that my book is a blend of, Lord of the Rings and Shaw Brothers Kung Fu movies. But I have played everything else. I'll make Star Wars, Star Trek. I talk about this in one of my other podcasts. However, my plan was to always start the channel and do more of live streams of sessions, of campaigns and adventures that we go on. So, because of family and friends, people have drifted apart in general. There's a core group that we stick together and we try to, play as much as we can. One friend will DM a couple of times and we'll switch off. But with the state of what's going on, I figured we'd start getting in contact online and seeing what we can do. So since I had an idea of setting up cameras and having a camera on the table, looking at the pieces and a map, and all of us mic'd up, getting a campaign from beginning to end, however many hours it might be, and just put it up as podcasts. When I first started on YouTube, when internet was invented, and I was into web coding and stuff like that, I always looked for Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And when YouTube became popular and I mostly lurked, I checked out a lot of live streams and I got into some of them. Some of them are really good, but that's the formula. It's usually several cameras, one's on the miniatures they use, which is a good way of depicting the action and what's going on. It's a good way to give players a feel of what's around them, how they could move, what they can interact with in their vicinity. However, I'm old school D&D. I'll play with no dice, no pencil, no paper, sitting around a campfire. So for me, it's about the story, weaving a plot line, making it interesting. And online, I think you can pull that off. So for me, if I was going to start with my core friends, I looked into a couple of options, and one of them was a free site that gives you some assets and resources, and that's called Roll20, I believe. And it even has an app for the phone. So I got into that, and then there was a paid one, which I just looked at surface wise, and a friend might look into it. But we're in tough times now, so budget is going to be the way to go. And how am I going to pull this off? I figured, okay, let's do some tests, and we used the Roll20 system. I had an adventure that we never completed, or a campaign for that matter. And we were right in the middle of something, and I found my notes. My friend had his character sheet at home, and even in this day and the internet, you don't have to worry about that. Anything could be exchanged online, but for the most part, he has his character sheet, which is all his information. And we started to test the site and use it and to see how well it would work. So what's really cool about the site is it has its own voice and video. So you don't need another type of program on top of it. I only tested the audio because I don't have a camera. And I don't know, 2.5 hours of playing, but it's been many more hours just delving into the site because it's a little confusing. You got to get used to it. And I've been thinking about what could be done in this day and age with people or friends that are just around the world. Nevertheless, random people who are interested in Dungeons and Dragons or role playing. And it seems to me that the biggest trouble I see looking at this type of community is interacting and getting people to play online, and not just your group, because I think that's a little bit easier. Maybe not with cameras and such, but if I just had 5 friends sitting in my room, we were mic'd up, no video, no nothing. You would just hear us talking. You would hear the dungeon master narrate the story, ask questions, describe scenery, and in turn, characters would participate. And you might not get the nuance of what character is speaking, and that would have to be done maybe in an overlay display. But that seems pretty easy. But what if, and there are people in different states, people around the world, friends who are interested in playing, and friends that are interested in playing but don't know anything about it. So, what's an easy way to start something like that? And I think it's just story and interaction as much as you can. So, I've been watching streams that have a Discord server. So, they'll sit in the Discord server, the voice chat, people join in, and that's streamed to YouTube. I I'm in my Discord now, but I don't know how any of it works. I didn't do any research. For the most part, me, it's just flipping on a switch and just babbling. So you could sit in your Discord, you have your room, and those are your players. So your players come in to the room, whether they've played before or not, whether they have resources or not. Either way, it doesn't matter to me. And then you have your live chat, let's say. Now I have barely any subscribers and listeners and interactions, but let's up the progression a little bit. So I have 100 subscribers, whatever, 20 or so people who will constantly come to the channel. Half of them maybe want to play, and they weave in between schedules of, oh, I'm making a schedule. I'll play on Wednesday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., etc. So I don't think that part's hard. But now we've got, how do we play? So basically, when you role play in tabletop, I've always treated it or respected it as a form of therapy, form of meditation. So basically, you're coming to a table to have fun. You might bring your troubles with you that day. You might have your things on your mind. But because of how our brains work, you have no choice when you sit down at the table and you're embodying another character. And it might even be someone associated with you or close to you. And in some cases, we play us. So some campaigns in the superhero genre, I would actually make us. So I'm a superhero. What would happen if I got powers? So I've done that also. But let's say, for the sake, you're playing a fighter, or you're embodying some type of person. The therapy in that is to be able to use parts of your mind creatively, which is a huge benefit cognitively. But you're letting the daily life slip away, but not in a bad way where you're just ignoring everything. You can use some of that and take it out in the game. So, if you're having trouble, things are going on in your life, and you want to, kick the orc in the groin a couple more times to get out of your system, you could do things like that. But the interaction of coming to the table, giving yourself up to a story, and seeing where it takes you, where almost every moment involves you bringing forth vivid imagination and trying to piece together in your mind what's going on, and that benefit is really good. So you're on your toes, you're almost in an acting position, but you don't have to be. I never force players to speak and act with accents, to put on voices. And I've played with so many people in the 30 something years I've DM'd and played. So I've been there with the people who wear outfits, who talking, and it all adds to the flavor to some extent. You have a couple of friends who enjoy it, but it's not a mandatory thing. So the basic thing is just coming in, enjoying yourself, using your imagination, and sometimes it's solving riddles and um, just traveling. And I think that could be done pretty easy. So you come into a live chat, you sit around, you're saying, okay, we're going to start the adventure, even if it's starting new. And for me, I would like to go individually first to see what people are interested in. So when you start thinking about role playing and tabletop stuff, I love Dungeons and Dragons, medieval stuff, but I love every genre, and I've played everything and adapted it to a system I like. But if I had to, what I would do is ask people individually, what excites you? What genre excites you? And over the years, I've heard things like The Matrix. Well, okay, so we'll make a campaign on The Matrix. We'll put it set in the world of Earth as it is depicted in the movies. And not that you're going to play Neo, but that you're someone in the Matrix. And just like the Dungeons and Dragons system has a system of leveling up thing, again, you might not be playing Murtaugh and Riggs, but you could be in that world where they're your captains and your sergeants. So, this aspect of role playing is really important to me. If you're interested in role playing, but you want to play superheroes and you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, that might be cool if that's the night you're playing, and next week you're playing Marvel, and a week after that you might be playing Star Wars, and one you like better than the other. But if you're gonna get excited and you're gonna want to get into something, I'd rather people tell me what they want to play, what they're excited about, what they envision themselves playing. You got plenty of video games for that. Uh, Taking the genre or something. I just started the thing we practiced on, me and my friend, was a Witcher campaign. He's a big fan of the video games, possibly the books and the myth behind it. And the show came out. Oh, I just did a little research, put in the Witcher theme into my campaign, and we played. And that's what we've been playing. That's a test we did. So I think the first thing about talking about Dungeons and Dragons and role playing in general, although I put the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Second Edition on my podcast because that's near and dear to me. There's an aspect of what do you enjoy, what do you see yourself doing, what do you want to do with your time, and when you want to escape. You want a space fantasy, you want to play in Star Wars universe, Star Trek, and many of these themes have their own genres. So you want to play Dungeons and Dragons, but you might want to play Dark Sun. I'm going old school, but I think they recreated it for fifth edition. So there were different, um, worlds and realms in some of these genres. When I first started and I grew up, the first books that I read were based on the first systems that were out. Mistred was Greyhawk, and then Forgotten Realms and Dungeon and Dragonland started, and these were campaigns in their own worlds. And Dungeons and Dragons and most role playing gives you the tools and provides you the jump to create your own world. So that's like the beginning of this, is saying, I'm thinking about role playing and I'm going to get my friends involved. And that might be something I do and never podcast. It might be something I do and just use as test to get better at it, which is what I've been doing. But what would happen when I want to turn a certain group and say, hey, Wednesday, it's an open session. We're going to start a new campaign. And then beforehand, we contact each other and, what kind of character you want to be, what world we want to play in. So I could see getting a group together that might want to play superheroes and interact with the movies that are out there. So I could say, okay, the universe you're in is every Marvel and DC movie. Fuck it, we'll just fit them in. With amalgamation. Earth is a little bigger. There's extra cities. Little fine points don't matter to me. And that's what we'll do. Maybe we'll play superheroes and you pick a character, or we do you and you become a hero, you get irradiated, or you have a mutant gene. In some episodes, you might be running around and Superman will help out in an adventure, or Thor, and so on and so forth. But for the most part, I'll continue talking about Dungeons and Dragons in general sense. And I'm more of a fan of the first and second edition rules. My favorite is the second edition player option, expanded stuff they did. And it was the epitome of role playing in my day, born in 71, so that'll give you an idea. So my goal would be I got so many adventures, so many things to could make up on the fly, concepts that we could just run with. I'm thinking of trying a little bit of a role playing aspect to live streams here and there. Maybe it'll become a staple of the channel, I don't know. But to give people an opportunity to just get out of their moment, have a little bit of therapy in a sense where it's meditation, it's higher cognitive functions, but being done in the right way. There's nothing like sitting down with your friends or people you enjoy, enjoying the story, getting involved, and you think 2 hours passed by and 7 hours went by. Now, this isn't a thing you do all the time, and I've played for days straight. We just get up in the morning, go right to the store, get something to eat, recharge. So we've had all night sessions. I've played with people all night, then the next person came over. So time could be eaten up, yes, and it's like anything. Well, I guess anything could be a psychological addiction to some extent, but I don't like using the word addiction unless it's my property. Anyway, Dungeons and Dragons would be the first thing I might try unless there's a bigger thing out there, or a bigger response to things. And everybody's busy, and you would think that more people are doing streams and live streaming in this time and putting out more content, but I think it's a little different. I think it's a shock to our system, and I've just turned it into more of a discipline, more practice, get better at what I do. So with this in mind, I started playing on Roll20. It's free to join, and I'm not pimping anything out to my fucking. I don't even know if anybody's watching this thing. I'm trying not to keep windows open this time. So here would be a look at what I'm trying to describe, and it'll help me flesh out my idea. Okay. So this is a layout, by the way, that I helped. I have a friend I help out with gaming channels and all that type of stuff, and I decided to make one for me in case I did gaming. And to be honest, I see no immediate future where I have a good enough computer and bandwidth since I'm still on fucking hotspot Wi-Fi. So now, this is what I was talking about, the site we're using. So this site itself lets me as a dungeon master or game master set up the visual cues and the world you're in, or the vicinity, the area. Now, this was the ending of the adventure the other night. There are enemies that are dead with the skulls. Those were werebears. You see a horse, and some of the bars have their hit points over it. I mean, if you look real closely, and I'm not sure. This was another test, so I'm going to see how this looks and feels when I play it back. But basically, it gives me and the players a guideline. So, like I said, you could sit at a campfire with your dice. I still narrate the story. I still describe what you see. The decisions are still made by random dice rolls, and where you succeed and fail, and all that could be given pluses or minuses depending on how well you're role playing. So if you're trying to haggle and get armor for cheaper, it doesn't have to just be a dice roll. It could be how well you speak to the person and what you're saying. And this gives the more experienced players more to do and to lead the other characters and to guide the adventure along, because there's nothing like having experienced players in the group. Experienced players let the dungeon master do way more. They carry the adventure sometimes. So here we are, we're looking at a screen, and we've got a map grid system, which would in certain circumstances dictate what the distance is in that area, and you play with that scale when you're doing long distances. And or let's say you have that one person in that box. But if we were playing battle system rules, that one box might be 30 troops. But in general, this would be like the old turn-based systems where you know where your enemies are, you know where you are, what can you do in this turn? We call them turn bases, and that's all up to the dungeon master and the players. But before I get it, too much into that, I want to sit back and think about the people who are just interested in role playing and think they want to role play, but oh man, this is difficult. Yes, if you were to say what is more complicated and in depth, Dungeons and Dragons or playing superheroes, well, Dungeons and Dragons. For instance, it wouldn't be a surprise to start off a superhero adventure with you wake up in the dungeons of Doctor Doom's castle, chained up with power dampeners on you, and you struggle to break free from your binds. Now, that might be an interesting and fun adventure starting that night, and then we play a little backtracking and how we led to it. Fine. In Dungeons and Dragons, you don't do that. It'd be very rare and odd if you started like, no, we were camping. It was Kelvar's watch. You said, and then they'll keep track of this. So there are different feels to these genres and gaming systems. The difference between Star Wars and Star Trek would be evident too, in how their genres act. So you kind of mimic that. My concern would just be the random person who's interested who wants to join in and have fun. And I say it starts with just talking and telling stories and having little adventures and asking, what would you do here? Here's a situation you're presented in. I find way too many times online, weeks and months go by trying to get a campaign going. I say, fuck it. How many people are here right now in the room? Oh, we got 3 of us. Let's start. 2 more join. 5 people are in the live chat. Well, I'll try to include them all. And if we expand that further and you go, okay, but that's impractical. Joe, you've got 5 million viewers, subscribers, you got thousands of people watching at once. This is not working. Well, okay, so my core group, let's say again in Discord, but whatever, or on this site, Roll Die 20, we have a core group of 4 people playing in one dungeon master, and everybody's enjoying it, listening, and getting into the story. You could still fashion certain storylines around larger groups. So, for instance, you could have a core group, and those 5 people, one be it, let's say, a mage, a fighter, a thief, a cleric, ranger, whatever, and they are escorting gold to another city, but they're joining a group of 36 protectors. So you've got men on horseback, you got wagons. Some of them are archers, and some of them, are fighters and scouts. So there you have the setup for the adventure. We're gonna start. Everybody's gonna get their shit together, and we're gonna look and say, okay, we got 5 people playing. All right, the adventure tonight is we've got a shipment of gold that this other city needs, and there's been too many bandits and people waylaying us on the road. So we're gonna add to this guard a group of adventurers, and maybe they could turn the tide, and that's how it would start. So you got your 5 people, you got people in the live chat, and you can start saying, okay, Mary, roll 20 cider, or in other terms, it could be, you don't have to have dice, so you can go right online now and use a random die generator. Anybody can do it. So anybody can play. What'd you roll, Mary? Oh, I rolled 11. And then dictating the pluses and minuses, I'll describe what happens. Even further, the characters get to a dungeon, Dungeons and Dragons, and they're doing their dungeon crawl, and they're exploring, and they come across a wall that they can't get past in all directions, and a magic mouth appears and tells a riddle. Now you could have the 5 people in the group or in the main chat, they're talking about the riddle, and you could have live chat giving hints. So I see trying to start something like this as, first, not a difficult, complicated thing. Let's just get people together, get them in a room. You tell me what we want to play. So we're going to play medieval Dungeons and Dragons, classic Lord of the Rings type stuff. Okay. We make you a character. We don't get into it too much. What do you want to be? Oh, give them the archetypes: fighter, thief, cleric. I want to be a fighter, but I want to be like Legolas. So I want to have a bow and then have. That's fine. Once those descriptors are down, we just start playing. The more you get into it, the more you want to get into it, the more you want to learn. Fine, you learn the rules, and everything's available online. Everything's at your fingertips. You want to get more in depth. You want to get a little bit more complicated. You want to get a little more complicated in how it works, and it'll always be open for that. But at first, it's just, hey, okay, we got 4 people going on an adventure, right? You already have your character. You're the fighter. You said you wanted to be a fighter. Okay. Now in the background, I can roll up general stats, and stats are your strength, your attributes, and the abilities you have. Elves can see in the dark, so on and so forth. What their movement speed is. It can get real intricate, get real complicated, but that's not how I want to do it at first. I want people to be able to just jump in, know what world or genre they're playing in, and say, oh, you know what, I want to be a fighter. And you might not play again for weeks. And a lot of DMs or dungeon masters or game masters can be real stringent and meticulous. So if my friend Bob plays 2 weeks in a row, and then he misses the next week, the dungeon master say, no, we're not playing because we're stuck in this forest and you're in the middle of an encounter when we stopped. All right, well, and we can't play without Bob. I try to avoid that in most circumstances that the players allow, because it comes down to your players. I mean, you'll have players who come in and don't want to do what the dungeon master obviously wants them to do. So if I'm giving you hints every time you're in the bar, getting into bar fights, and about an ogre band ravaging the countryside, and I kill throw hints, and but you're being a type of DM, and you're like, oh no, they can just explore the world. That's fine. But what'll happen is when you go back to town and you find everyone dead and the ogres have ripped apart the whole community, those are the ramifications for that. So you'll have one player who keeps insisting on going one way, and it creates a thing. So you do have players, you have your own trolls in the Dungeons and Dragons system. At the time, I used to go to the Complete Strategist or do sanctioned TSR stuff. I don't when Wizards of the Coast took it over, it was more Magic the Gathering that I was into, and I don't think I did much of the Dungeons and Dragons. But you would go to have sitting tables with people, strangers, so you didn't even get to play with your friends all the time in that sense. Obviously, it's my house. Anyway, so I'm just talking about the way to get into Dungeons and Dragons, visual elements like you see on the screen that would pull you in. So you pick your character, you want to be a fighter, we'll find a fighter that matches what you described, and that becomes your visual cue of who you are and where you are on the map. There's a horse there, that's the character's horse. He has an ally, he was training on something, and the hippogriff was thankful for them helping with the werebears. So I don't want it to look like a complicated thing. Someone right now who's listening could go, oh, well, this sounds interesting. I'm going to go look. And then they look at the rule books and they look at the character sheets, and there's so much information, so many dice, there's so much. This led to them, I think, ruining the systems to some extent. Dungeons and Dragons, after the edition I like, which is 2E, expanded skills and powers, and the last epic books they put out, in my opinion. They went to 3rd edition, a die 20 system, and then it broke apart. They became Pathfinder in some sense, and it's never been the same for me. I have played every system. I own every system's Dungeon Master's book and Player's book, except for the 5th edition. A friend got it, and he's DMing. By the way, I love playing in 5th edition. I have no problems. It's just, what do you favor? what's more your style as a game master or dungeon master? And for me, it's always second edition, and it'll probably never change. I describe in my other podcast when I wrote my book, I role played with my friends the characters that we made up, gave them backstories and role played for a year and a half or so. Got some real dialogue, real feels and sayings that I put into the book. And I think this could be captured online. I don't see the real problem except for consistency. So I guess it's more the DM or the GM's problem than it is a player. Because like I said, this day and age, you expect people to be online more, but you got to be understanding of what stress it is increased on people. I sometimes fight myself with waking up every day and battling my own depression and my own thing. I haven't had an issue in a long time, or an episode, or whatever you want to call it. Probably over a year. I've come close a couple of times recently, but what I did start feeling is a general burned out. I don't know, like an edge that I recognize when I meditate that's constantly trying to drain me. And for me, it has to do with the way I've structured my life recently and how I, avoid total surprises, and I like to plan for things and focus. And this virus thing has just gotten a little out of control with work, and everybody's worried about things, and you got relatives. So you want to bring that up. This is not that type of podcast. This is no snarky, wise ass asshole in some great debate forum and reading Facebook feeds and shitting on people. This is just my love of Dungeons and Dragons, of storytelling. I think it's at the heart of who I am. If it was up to me and they asked me, look, you got all the money in the world, what do you want to do? What makes you happy? And I said, I just want to write books. I want to, write video games and design trading card games based on fantasy worlds that I've created or have an interest in. And I would love to write for Marvel or DC and movies, and I write scripts and whatever. So what can you do in an online experience like this? I think it's something anybody could at least try. You have so many uh, people out there that just might be stressed out. I know what it's like to withdraw into yourself, into the darkness, and feel comfortable in pity and sorrow. And sometimes these episodes come more often than others for people. Part of me has always tried to reach out and help people when I came back from my exile. And I mostly do that behind the scenes. It's just a random, hey, how you doing? I've gone through some stuff. You want to check it out? Go ahead. And maybe we can talk. It's just a friend you need. So I think this, in a way, could be something like that. It could be, um, a way for people to just relax and have fun and get their mind off things, but do it in a good, productive sort of way. I like thinking of it like, families getting together and, someone's telling a story, and it does invoke a little things about your childhood. And there are aspects of it that I believe help more than harm if you want to nitpick it and examine. Okay, well, Bob, you fucking spent 7 hours playing Dungeons and Dragons, supposed to do the fucking laundry and take the kids to school. Yeah, man, anything could be framed that way. So, this was me in the beginning. I'm just trying to get my feet on the internet. A lot of this is still practice. This is all going to be experiments and getting better at things. And I think some of the tools that I'm finding, I'm working with my friends, could help in a general sense. Just, I think it'd be so cool to just be able to get online a couple of times a week when time permits and play Dungeons and Dragons, have adventures, meet new people, get them into the world they like and what they enjoy. And sometimes that means, next week we're playing Marvel and, oh, I really want to play D&D. Well, you know what? We don't have to play that week. We'd rather have everybody in that group there. So we're going to play superheroes, and you find that it's fun, and you just have fun with what's happening at that time, and what genre, and maybe you get a cool group together, internet people all around the world. I have coffee today, but my tea, I was going to have a little sugar water, but however, I just stopped using, well, fucking sugar's now a commodity, right? It's like fucking gold. Anyway, so I avoided that, and I had soda, so I got both. And I ate right before I started. Because I've done a couple practice runs, and I've done the 2 hour and 3 hour podcast by myself. I didn't feel too pressured, although I did use Facebook as a crutch. So it was easy for me to start reading articles and riffing on people's stupidity and ingenuity and smarts. I was just going through a bunch of things. I was going to have a little sugar water. So I'm talking about Dungeons and Dragons, if you're wondering. I'm Joseph F. Olsis. The Deadly Addictions channel. Anyway, so I avoided that, and I had soda. So it is 7:10 p.m. And I ate right before on Wednesday, April 8th, 2020 started. And I've basically been describing how I've done the 2 hour role playing with my friends online using one of many systems or ways of doing it. One happens to be the site called Roll.20 or Roll20. It lets you interface with your phone and a web page, which is cool. That means it's just a browser thing. And as you can see from the screen, what's on the screen, so the left side has almost a Photoshop feel that lets you interact with the Dragons, if you're wondering, board you're seeing. So like I said, I think the focus from the first part of this would be, if anybody's interested, if anybody wants to play Dungeons and Dragons and is thinking about having fun with it, it's just there. That's it. Get together, talk, listen. You'll be asked questions. You'll be described scenes, and you'll have fun. And then we get into the nitty gritty. What's my strength? What's my dexterity? Always splitting strength. Is his strength going to be split into stamina and muscle? And is constitution going to be split between health and whatever the fuck the other one is? And so on and so forth. And then what skills do you learn? The left side has almost a, and that's another thing about role playing, which I like to do if I had my way, is, so like I said, I think I like to start groups as children or in other settings that are not thinking about having fun with it. It's just there. That's it. Fully fledged adventures. Because in my head, when I played my first years, I was always a little surprised and a little weirded out that, okay, I come over, I'm going to make a character. Okay, you start at first level, and you have 7 skills, 3 weapons, and you make your character. Stamina and muscle, which is fun, and it's great. And I did it for years. But as a DM, I said, you know what? And because I was a player for so long, I wanted to make memorable moments of, when did you learn to swim? Who were you with when you learned to swim and you almost drowned or your friend almost drowned? So I start certain campaigns as children, and it's a real quick thing. You can do it sometimes in one night if you just want me to get the story out. But it lets you go, okay, when you first level, and who you trained by, how did you train? Did you just come home, find carnage, and pick up a sword and started on a warrior character? Okay, you started first campaign, or were you trained as a cavalier or a knight since a kid? And you make your character stamina and muscle, which is fun, and it's great. And I did it for years. But as a DM, I said, you know what? And one of my other adventures, I started them in college. Well, a magic college. It was a mage. Who were you with when you learned to swim? And a part of it might have seemed a little boring, but it was curriculum and the things you had to do to prepare to get that first level to become a wizard or a mage. And that's what but it lets you go, okay, when you first level. That's what I like about that aspect. But how did you train? Not even considering that. You just come home, just getting together, knowing the premise of the story, having fun, role playing. As a cavalier, I think it's something that could be really cool in this day and age. It's just something I'm doing anyway, and it adds exactly to what I want to do, and it's something I think I can do. When I started out, I did two. When I started with one podcast a week, I went up to 5, and this is just recorded. Part of it might have seemed a little bit boring, but it was curriculum, imagery, no cameras. I've never used cameras yet. That first level, and I found myself doing 3 a week, so I could put out 3 a week, and it's comfortable for me. It feels like what I like about that aspect, but a non-stressful endeavor, and it doesn't impact on my stress or my environment and what's going on. Having fun. And now this happened with the virus, and I started finding myself with time. I started experimenting with this day and age. It's just live something I'm doing anyway, and it adds exactly to what I want to do, and it's something I think I can do. When I started out, I don't know if Steve's listening. When I started with one podcast a week, I went up to 5. Yeah, I won't fucking roll those to 2. Fucking text me. I'm fucking hungry. Anyway, no cameras. I've never used cameras yet. And I found myself doing 3. What can be done? Like, what can we do online? And it feels like I think it's simpler than what you see people attempt to do. There's so many attempts at fucking trying to get things started. I see them fizzle everywhere, and even in some communities I was a part of. I'm gonna admit to being in such a dark place that I just lurked for so long. So, I don't know if I'm going to type now in a type chat if someone's reaching out to me. Yeah, I won't fucking roll those to 2. Fucking text me. I'm fucking hungry. Anyway, no cameras. I've never used cameras yet. And I found myself doing 3. You fucking think you're getting your wife rolling and kids rolling roasted, but not me. You fucking got another thing coming. Simpler than fuck that. People attempt to do. There's so many attempts fuck at that. Fucking rolling roaster everywhere. Even in some communities, fuck yeah, I want that. Even though I ate before, but I did fucking learn my lesson. I did a 3-hour podcast, and by the end of it, I was fucking starving. And people came on, my friends came on and just tortured me with burgers and shit. I don't know if I fucking forgot. Type chat if someone's reaching out to me. Yeah, I won't fucking roll those to 2. So I probably fucking had an echo for a while. I didn't learn and realize what I did. And I'm learning. So, getting back to this, I think it could be easy. I see too many things fall apart. I see too many things try to be done online, and it's just weeks and weeks and months of people rotating and not getting anything done. I keep wondering why the DM's just not sitting there going, okay, who do we got? Let's go. Oh, I gotta get into my character, make it. No, let's just go. What do you want to be? Oh, I want to be a priest. I want to be a knight. There you go. You're a knight. You're a priest. What's your name? We'll pick a name. Let's go. Let's start. And then once you get the group getting, you get the story going. When you have time and he contacts you, you go, okay, let's flesh out that character. But way too many opportunities go lost, I see online. I'm in some big communities here and there. And sometimes I lurk on other communities. And when I see the thought brought up about Dungeons and Dragons, I go, yeah, I get all excited. I've even offered my help on a couple of them. Not that I'm someone special, but I just try to get involved. Well, when I came back, not on my hiatus. This is all within the last year or so. And I've been vocal and tried to get it going with them, and I could see the flaws because I've been dungeon mastering for 30 years. And I know I could see what's going on. It's not that anybody's ulterior motives in that sense, but you get excited about the premise. You're all excited. You spend 3 hours getting one person's character ready, and the whole project fizzles. Everything just goes to the wayside. You do that stuff on the side, on the periphery. right? So I'm coming on live. We're starting to play. We're playing right now. And that's it. People join, they come and they go. You keep it loose for everything. That doesn't mean you can't have a quality story. That doesn't mean I'm still going to put in the same effort to that campaign. So no matter what happens, I write what's going on visually and in your frame of reference, and then what's going on from the villain's point of view, and what that progress will look like on a timeline. So no matter what you do, that's still going on. So I see too much bogged down nonsense with 3 hours of talking about Dungeons and Dragons here, 3 hours of talking about it there, talking about one character and aspect and getting into little skills and like how the sheets work. I think that's a big mistake because they don't get off the ground that way. I got enough players I've played with that it doesn't matter. We get into a room, someone has dice, it's on. That's it. Just have dice. I tell a story. I describe what's going on. You respond. You give your input. You come up with new ways to do things. And that's how we would progress. I see way too much bullshit. And it's not a bad thing. I would love to see tons of Dungeons and Dragons or role playing streams become the big norm and take over the fucking internet. And right now is probably the time. Why not? Plenty of hours. I'd rather spend time focused and doing stuff and making people interested and happy, and instead of just fighting off this inevitable fight with the demons inside me and the darkness and worrying about things, and just I know that temptation of just slipping into that bed and days and weeks go by. And I think Dungeons and Dragons could be a help. It could be inspiration. It could be therapeutic for people, and that's why I'm probably doing this now. I see just an opportunity to just look at it a different way. So my impulse, my goal right now would be to just say, I will DM anything, any genre, with as many people as necessary or wanted. I'll even keep options open for live chat involvement for players who come and go. Certain players say, you know what, yeah, you could run my character. And yeah, there is a fine line you play as a DM with favorability and trying to let things happen naturally. And to solve that, I've used something called the character point system. So my campaigns would be more akin to novels and books that, yeah, certain characters will die, but for the most part, the people are destined for something special. I loved a series of books called The Wheel of Time. Damn it, Robert Jordan. And he died before he made the last books. I think he got up to like 11 or 9. Anyway, they had something called the Taverin or the Taverine. And it's described as certain people who were born that the pattern of the world revolves around them and they influence things. And I saw that as what my goal as a game master would be. You know, my goal isn't to fudge the numbers to make your character live, but it's to give you the tools that you can come up with ingenuity and good role playing to get you out of a situation. And oh, you know what? I've been saving my character points. I'm going to re-roll that so I don't fail and die. So that's what I do as an equalizer. And for the community, in a certain sense, I would probably do that online, live. But that doesn't mean you're not going to do something stupid. You're not going to get hurt. And you have to make a new character. It's just going to happen. Hold on. What I'm going to do is at the hour mark, I'm going to play another song. So the first song was Disturbia from Burton Gaines' album All By Myself. I'll play the second track in about 5 minutes. Is one of my best childhood friends. Ironically, he doesn't play Dungeons and Dragons, and he doesn't want to play Dungeons and Dragons. He lives right fucking next door to me. I could throw a rock right through his window. Oh no, his building's in the way. But you know, his building is 90 feet from me. And it's been that way for. I'm here 30 years now in this apartment. Love him. He's my brother. Taught me how to play guitar. He was an amazing musician, but won't play fucking D&D. Anyway, so I'm talking Dungeons and Dragons. I'm all over the place now as I got distracted a little bit. And I'll get back to it after the hour mark. I'll play another song from Burton Gaines' album All by Myself. I'm going a little bit different with the music. Although I love the Piston songs, they're my staple, and I give no fucks about how annoying that wee thing is. To test people. Get through that and become normal to that. I've just improved your life. Everybody who listens. So I wasn't gonna start with background music, like a bed of music underneath, because obviously I can't get it fucking right. I have no clue, and I can't judge the levels. I guess I gotta get a producer. Um, what was that Bull in there? Maybe I get Bull. Where's Bull? What about Bull? And but I don't mind like pausing, taking a bathroom break, and putting on a song at a certain level because they don't give a fuck if it's too loud. So before I do that, I am Joseph F. Olsis. I am Addiction Master on most social media. I am doing a live stream on YouTube talking about Dungeons and Dragons or role playing in general. On the screen is a image of Roll20 website, which lets you do voice and video chat. It lets you put assets that are like maps with character representations, and people who play can control them. You can give the permissions, or you can just not and let you control everything. And in that way, it works great for other people. You know, you're on your phone and you're doing something, you're talking, and you're just on the, you're not even looking at your phone. You can play, and I'll move your piece. And you tell me who you're gonna attack. There are things like you put on the screen, and they will signify things. You can give people um, indicators for their health and hit points, and so it gives DMs a little bit more info. It gives them stuff that other players can play, which is joining in and want to have fun, which is voice. It can get in depth for people who really get into it, want to make a deep character sheet, learn about all their skills and proficiencies and all the intricate things that make up Dungeons and Dragons. Now, as a player, I'll play in anything, but I could see the benefit of the new systems. I think the new systems are great for beginners. Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, I have no problem with it, except when you look at it, from my point of view, it's all watered down video game translated into tabletop. So it's more of a cookie cutter approach. Me, I decided to take the problems with the old system and make them better, uh, improve on them, rather than giving it up to go for simplicity and less dice. And that debate is great. Uh, like I said, I've played in every system. I prefer second edition Dungeons and Dragons, preferably the expanded rules and skills and powers and all that. And that dealt with a lot of character point systems and making up your own characters. So I'm going to take a break in a couple of minutes. I'm going to put on Burton Gaines' album, his second song off that album, All by Myself. And I'm just talking about Dungeons and Dragons and what my goal might be for doing live game sessions. People can jump in, create a character, have templates ready, name generators. I mean, just so many ways you can cut the ease down. But like I said, I think before I go on this break, I want to make a point to say I think the biggest problem with all these communities that try to do something like that is preparing. You can't have a 3 hour stream get nowhere except for one person's character and one aspect of that character, and then expect everybody to get together week after week to keep the process going. It doesn't work. It might work like that at your house, right? What are we doing tonight? We're playing poker tonight. What are we doing tonight? We're gonna play Xbox tonight. What are we doing? We're playing D&D tonight. And then you can get to it. You can hammer it out. And in the time in between, you're talking to your friend, you're making up his character sheet, you're fleshing it out, and it works. That online, it's not going to be that way. Who knows how many times Bob can play, Mary can join, You don't want to get too technical and bogged down. You just want everybody to have fun, experience what role playing is, Dungeons and Dragons, and then if they get into it, you get deeper into it. So I'll continue this discussion in a couple of moments. Thank you for joining me. I am Joseph F. Olsis, and I am going on a little break. I'm going to play a song from Burton Gann's album, All By Myself. I am back. Alright, that was Burton Gaines' music off his album All By Myself. A good friend of mine, childhood friend, brother, great musician. And I get to use his music for free. Yay! No flags or anything. Alright, so I am back talking about Dungeons and Dragons or role playing in general. I went over, I guess, my desire to do it and sort of how I would do it. I was getting into the problems I saw. I went over a little bit of what's on my screen, which details like a map and where your characters would be and where the creatures you might fight could be positioned. And that's the Roll20 website that I joined and that we've done tests on. Vaping. Deli Dixon channel. Always doing some kind of drug. I want fucking mushrooms though. I think we agreed to watch Mr. Rogers' movie, Forget Mushrooms. So if I get mushrooms, I gotta watch it. So I was talking about how difficult it is, I think, when I see places and communities try to get a D&D campaign going. I don't think it has to do with the players. I think it has to do with the people who are setting it up as a dungeon master, who are looking at it like, like the excitement's there and people who role play and love to play are going to play almost no matter what. And then you just got to get them together. So I say, just start. That's it. I mean, you're exploring the goal. This is archetype of your character. Make some rolls. Everybody had fun. A couple hours went by. Oh, let's do it next week. And then before next week comes, some of the people are reaching out to you, and you flesh out their characters. And you can record that, sure, I guess. You want to make that content. I could see that being fun. I have a couple of people who contacted me and talked about it, but I take that with a grain of salt. People want to be nice and, interested. I don't put no burden on anybody to reach out to me, but you can. I have a Discord, I have Twitter, Facebook. So you're listening to the Daily Addictions channel, doing a YouTube live stream, just talking about role playing, particularly Dungeons and Dragons right now. But the concept and all the themes, they apply to everything. I mean, it's probably easier to start a superhero, that genre type role playing. It's probably easier to even do Star Trek, Star Wars in that sense. And it's the same concepts. It's just get it started. Who do you want? I want to be a Jedi or I want to be a smuggler. Okay, what ship you got? And then you just start your smuggling shipment. And you know what? Take plots from movies, take plots from TV shows. Most people won't recognize them. If they do, they'll get a little chuckle. They'll have a little insight onto maybe where the adventure's going. And it doesn't mean take it outright, but just use it. Use its framework. A lot of what I've done over the years is develop my own sort of system on writing an adventure or plot. So in a superhero genre, it's not many pages. Let's say 3 pages is the outline. Then it's the general theme and direction, and then it's what the villains are doing in the background, and they all kind of work in a clockwork or a seasonal effect where every certain amount of months these things are going to happen because that's what's happening in time. But it's the same concept. I would say you use the same plan. Got enough people in a room, just start playing. I've gone back to this, but I see too many people in the room talking about it and talking about characters, and 2 hours go by, but nothing was really done. So get people in the room and just start. If you're a dungeon master, if you're gonna try something like this, just start. And it's not that hard. might be difficult in the sense of, like me, it takes a lot for me to, after what happened, or to come out of my shell to be more of who I am, you know, more assertive and more social. So now, once you've got enough people, you got a theme going, everybody's enjoying the story, and you start fleshing out characters. You start finding the people who really want to dedicate some time and are really interested, and even the other people who can't devote time and they're really interested. You see, you got to involve them too. I would think you use everybody at your disposal. Come up with a plan that involves a revolving door of adventures and stories that involve a general group theme, but based out of a city type location that has access to many different paths and walks of life or different adventures you can go on. So you could say, okay, Bob was here last week, but he's not. I was like, oh yeah, you know what? He went to the city. He went back to the city, and you give him that leeway of not running into and getting eaten on the way back. If you want to be a DM like that, you want to make a roll, go ahead, and then you gotta explain that to the character. I remember I had a friend I played this campaign for years. He was my first DM, a dungeon master, and out of the blue, he's being moved away, and I hadn't seen him in years. Contacted him every once in a while here and there. And he called me up and he goes, "Oh, your character survived." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "Oh, what was the character? Feng Hu? I think it was Feng Hu." And I was like, "Oh, really? So what happened?" Oh, yeah, it was a big battle. My friend Joe was down there because he went up to see him upstate, and they had a big adventure. I don't know how fucking many hours, 6 hours or something like that. He's like, "Oh, yeah, your character survived. Everything's going." I was like, "Well, now you're telling me now, but in this day and age, think how easy it would be. Like, oh, Joe's here, we're playing. Okay, put me through. Put Skype on, Facebook, Discord, whatever." So I think those type of problems go away now. So there's really not that much of an issue. And on the roll 20, which I'm showing you, you could actually roll the dice, so you don't have to worry about people having to roll, right? You don't have to depend on their die roll. So I rolled a die. I don't know what the delay will look like or if it even will fucking show up at this point. But it comes with its own system, so you have dice there. There's even a deck of cards you can add in. All the assets go in. So I see it as just a way of adding to everything. You've got a whole world of assets now at your fingertips. Back in the day, that didn't matter. Back in the day was, you know, you're going into the city to find uh, you know, a store or establishment that does legit TSR stuff or Wizards of the Coast stuff. And now you've got all these assets. You've got everything at your disposal. You can put creatures in, you can put monsters and even fire pits and tents. I'm sure I haven't looked into it enough because it is work in a sense. Building a city. I mean, it's one thing, I guess, to put a castle in the background and know the distance that you're going to get to the castle, and you're role playing the adventure to get there, right? But once you go past the city walls, you could probably even detail what the streets are like and have people go down the street, what store they pass. Now, when you don't have any of this, that's up to the dungeon master, right? That's up to me to describe that it's a late autumn day, it's chilly with rain and drizzle. You come into the town, which is usually prosperous, and you find that they cheer you on as you bring the gold to them that is much needed in the community. And they give you a drink and they celebrate you, and you pass it on to the guards, but as the group, you're given the fame, and I'm skipping the adventure itself, but just giving you the idea of what a program like this could do. So I could see, even if I was just doing sessions with my friends, go on through here, do the adventure, get it done, no matter how long it is, and it becomes content. It can be uploaded, watched live. Maybe people could come into the live chat and give hints for riddles and stuff like that. And also for the startup process with people. If it comes to it, no matter how many people are in that room, and I'll label it Discord, but whatever, your chat room that you're doing it through, even if it's Facebook and you get a Facebook group together, the Dungeon Master can control everything here. All you have to be is the phone against your ear and interacting. So if someone else is sitting at their house and they can control their character, that's fine. But I'll move the character, and it's up to me to say, to your right is a drop down of 8 feet. So you brace your feet as the creature comes at you. And you only have 2 venues of escape or attack. So I gotta give you the visualization that you can't go to your right and back, but you can go to your left, to the side, and try to get away, or make sure when the creatures attack you that drop could hurt you or potentially kill you. So in this city, I gotta describe the stores you're going by. There were vendors that are outside. They're selling pickles for sale, or the crier that's calling out for adventurers to help in the town. They have a problem with goblins in the north, in the valley. Well, okay, we've got 3 days off as you get the gold exchange and you go investigate the goblin incident. And yeah, who's there today? Who's there in the room when we're playing? Well, Mary and Bob aren't here, but we got these 2 new players, and you go, okay, the one or 2 players that are there from last week say, oh, our group is a little disbanded, and you introduce the new characters and say, oh, these are our young up and coming adventurers. They're looking for fame and glory, and so on and so forth. And then that adventure goes from there, and you're going to investigate the goblins. But until you just start doing it, I think you're wasting time trying to get in depth into people's character sheets and all their skills. And I could see experienced players just doing it so quick, because I used to be able to do it real quick. Just get your pencil. I had the format down, and I write all my own character sheets in a way, because they're custom when I adapt so many things into it. So that's my idea. That would be my premise, is just to be, once I decide to start doing it, it's either going to be with the players I play with normally, and that's the friend circle. And that friend circle might be distant now. Got a couple people living upstate in different states. They have families now. But hey, maybe on a certain night they can jump on the computer for 2 hours, or their phone. And they can get involved and have adventures, and if not, new people. Have a story ready. Just get them going, move them in a direction, get them interacting, and it could actually help in certain communities. I bet I could see it being a potential, like a diplomatic thing too. It's actually bringing in some ideas to mind about a certain community. But so you have resources like this online. They make a visual aid immense, so much easier. And especially with movies now that I love, like Lord of the Rings, it's not that hard to say you envision this castle or the Urukai, and you can feel it, you can see it in your mind. Same thing with Star Wars and Star Trek. Once you start giving the descriptions of the hum of the ship, the view screen, or the hum of the lightsaber as it ignites in your hand and you're deflecting bolts back, the movies have done the job. Your brains are already immersed in this vivid imagination, creating schemas and patterns in their brain, and they're coming up with creative, spontaneous um, uh, works of art, in my opinion. To me, the players are just important as the DM. When I wrote my book, I depended on my characters when we played for a year and a half to give me some of that dialogue, to give me what the angst was between One Lung and his brother, his half brother, who were the main protagonists of the book. and some of the sayings and quips and the little jokes that are in the book, and they're from the role playing. So I think that's at the heart of it, and the players make a big difference. So you got three people who want to play. Don't take 7 hours and a month to decide on a plan. If I decide to do this and I'm in the room and people are like, "Oh yeah, we'll try it," we just go. That's it. And then we take the time to flesh out characters, to get in depth in all the intricate stuff and what skills do you know. Because technically, the skills are just there to give you advantages and little bonuses, but you can try anything. And just because you didn't learn how to swim doesn't mean you're not going to make it across the river. You're going to make a swimming check and you could fucking drown, but anything could be attempted. So, all these little things about your character sheet, and I'll keep track of that stuff. Like, what armor are you wearing? Yeah, you don't know the formula for your armor class or how difficult or easy it is to hit you. I'll keep that in mind at first, or the DM should in a general sense. So you're starting with a character, and he calls himself a ranger, and he's wearing leather armor, and you know what leather armor does with the person's dexterity. So you know their armor class is, let's say, 5, and you don't have to bog down the character with that information at first. These are players who are just interested in their creativity is brewing, and the excitement is in the story. It's in the continuation of their actions that they're making up on the spot. This is creation, like pure and simple, in a real fun way. You're playing a character that's not you, but you're embodying it, and you're going through adventures, and you're bonding with other characters. And like I said, for me, mostly it's the friends that I grew up with and who play. But for times, it was great going to stores and tournaments and meeting other people. And back in the day, it used to be the little flyers with the little rip tags you pulled off. You see them, well, you used to see them on trees and places, and carpeting business and whatever. And that's how it used to work. You used to go look on the board, pull off these little tags, call, see if they want to play, when they want to play, whose house is it going to be played at. So already the community is a great one in that you have a goal of people to come together to have a good time, to listen to story. Now, there are outliers to everything. You're gonna be, like I said, I described it a little bit before. You're gonna get the asshole players, and some people can't help but bring what they got from their house or their problems home into the game. But after a while, you come to view people as, human, and we all have our days, and all have our methods of dealing with it. And you have a tool. You have a Dungeons and Dragons tool. It's a immersed world that you participate in, and you can act out and kind of, get yourself a little bit of relief in the game. You want to, take out a little bit of your frustrations in life. So I basically talked about the beginnings of this endeavor in a sense. I talked about how I like this one site. I was thinking about two, and I was getting into now a little bit more about the problems I see on other types of endeavors like this, and what I think could happen, and what could be some of the benefits of um, getting some of this information out in a podcast like this, so people could know that if they want to play and they see me um, in a stream, that they could be in their car or stuck outside in traffic. You don't need to have your sheet that day and know exactly what your stats are. I mean, yeah, you want to get nitty gritty and play by the book. There are different styles of dungeon mastering. But in this case, I would take that approach. I would take the approach of, everybody has a life. They want to get a little distraction. They want to do it in a more productive way. And I think role playing does that for people. So you're listening to Joseph F. Falsis, Addiction Master, on most social media. On the Deadly Addictions channel, I'm streaming live to YouTube, more of a spontaneous thing. I haven't had many projects, and I've been able to get some sleep, and unwind a little bit during this shit. And this is something we did a couple of nights ago. Last night, did we do the last test last night? Yeah, I think I did. We played. Yeah, this adventure was from last night. So we finished up this adventure, and it'll continue from here because he has to learn about the habits and abilities of the hippogriff while they're basically studying it. Now, I've been playing for so long, dungeon mastering for a certain amount of time, and fancy myself a writer. I explained that, if it was my choice and I had all the money in the world, I'd probably be fucking dungeon mastering every night that I could, writing books and so on and so forth. So for me, all this role playing is like inspiration, and it's ideas, it's fuel for books and novels that I want to write. And I take that from a lot of the role playing I do when I structure the storyline. So I could, I have an idea for the next two books that I'm writing. They have to do with the older campaign, but the structure that's still in place. There's still full backstories on everything. And if we start a group, we can start in the midst of that, and you can play in the world that my book inhabits. So you're actually playing in the Deadly Addiction Chronicles setting. And you might be on a different landmass, as I did with one of my other characters who played in a parallel storyline that happens. I think it starts in the book too. So book one wouldn't be, but it's not going to be in the book, but it could be its separate book. So you can get a little bit of added spice and benefit to say, oh, you know what, we're going to play, and you've read my book. Oh, okay, well, you meet that character in the book. You come to a place where that person's legacy has changed the culture in the area. So let's say you're doing it far into the future, or you're doing it before it happens. So maybe you see him as a kid growing up. There's so many things you can do in that sense, which is why a lot of people love playing in certain realms. Like you want to play in the Forgotten Realms, and one of the most popular characters is Drizzt Do'Urden, is a drow. When you're looking at the books in that genre, the Icewind Dale trilogy, Homeland, that whole thing is probably some of the top-notch action writing. I consider it a comic book in novel form. If I go back to my heart and what impacted me and moved me the most, it would be Dragonlance and their sprawling connective storyline that they went back and forth. And when you're reading about, when the books start, they've been apart for 5 years, they come together, and then when that trilogy's over, you find out about the 5 years previous, and then you find out about 5 years after, and then you find about 100, like when they talk about wars, a little more fleshed out version of what Tolkien was doing. All praise Tolkien. I love those books. So there is a benefit of me dungeon mastering and saying, okay, well, you're in the Deadly Addictions Chronicles world, you're on this certain island or landmass. Here's the cities in your vicinity. Here's your training ground, so to speak. This is where you're going to start. And if I ever did progress the books, or just by chance it happens to coincide with certain things, you might meet characters on the book. That world would be fleshed out. And you know what? In Dungeons and Dragons, what they would do back in the days, they would do modules. So what a module would be is a self-contained adventure based in one of those realms, and you get to play it. So Dragonlance Chronicles, or is it book one? I don't know what it is. Dragons of Autumn's, whatever, Dragons of Winter Solace. You read the novel and you got all these characters. You got Riverwind and Tannis and Caraman and Raceland, all that awesome stuff. Then you can go buy the module, and the module is basically a dungeon master or whatever is a writer lays out the book in adventure form, and someone plays Raceland, and someone plays Caraman, and someone play, and you can play. You could do a twist on that. You could have that happening and have supporting characters that aren't told in the books, secret, or your own little mysteries that tie into books and say, oh, you know what, in Dragonlance, when they were able to get to the Park Staxis, fucking whatever it is, what they didn't show in the book was our characters helping them when they got waylaid on the side of the road. So modules, it's always fun to immerse yourself in a world that's vivid and connects with you, which is why for a long time we loved playing in Middle Earth. I had a friend that's where he started with his dungeon mastering. I went into it myself because I love it. And when I think about it, the Lord of the Rings role playing system I didn't like. Like I didn't like Rifts and other type of worlds. Like the systems were a little just didn't mesh with me. And granted, I might be biased because I was a child and I grew up with that system of Dungeons and Dragons and AD&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Second Edition, and I've been there for everything. So much like me having a love for the original Star Wars movies and TV shows in my youth, I'll admit to um, loving the particular system. As complicated as it is, and I don't even think it's that complicated because I think it's a cop out now. When people complain about the THACO to hit Armico 0 and it's all complicated, whatever. But it's better. It makes more sense. I don't care how high and minus your pluses are and how you calculate it. It's a simple system. Now it's like one die, you use two die once in a while. And it gets a little as a DM, I'm sorry. As a DM it gets a little cookie cutter for me. But I have my friend who DMs in 5th edition. I love it. Now, would I look at other systems? I mean, yes, I would. I don't mind playing, but so let's say someone said, you know, I want to play superheroes, but I'm familiar with the Marvel Die 20 system. And I'm familiar with the Marvel Saga system, which I believe is better. Now, Marvel Saga system came from when Wizards of the Coast took over TSR. They used the Dragonlance setting to try something new, and they started a Fate deck. So instead of dice ruling everything, you get a cards and you get a hand, and that determines how successful you'll be in any endeavor. And it's more like you're playing a card game, and it gives a little more nuance to things. So they adapted that for superheroes, and they came out with the Marvel Saga system. So I guess it would be up to the DM. Like for me, if you want to play superheroes, we'll play in the Marvel Saga system. But if it matters online, yes, the die system might be better to work with, the die 20, because we have all these die emulators. I have an old Fate deck that's like a Java thing, or I don't know what to call it. It's some kind of file that it's like this little program. You hit it, the deck thing opens, and you can use the Marvel Saga system. It has its own cards. I don't know how to get that to work. A Flash player or something like that. Yeah, like a Flash something. So you get enough resources, and you have a rich world. People are connected to it. I think it could be fun, helpful, therapeutic in that sense too. Anything. I mean, just think of your favorite movies, your favorite genres. I mean, when we played CIA dudes, for lack of a better word, I don't know what the fuck did I call it. And we played like like playing like a Lethal Weapon movie or more of a CIA type movie. It was mimicking real life with real life situations, and you come up with a system on how bullets work. I adapted I think the old D&D system had like muskets, I believe, or blunderbergs, whatever the fuck they were calling them. So there was a system there, and I used it, and that's how I made Gunslinger. Also, westerns. I fucking love westerns. I got really deep into it. I watched all my favorite westerns, and I was watching TV shows and really going nuts. And a friend heard me playing I don't know what the fucking Marconi something, all the classic Clint Eastwood music, Ecstasy of Gold in particular. And we started watching the movies together. I was like, fuck this, you know what? Let's fucking play. Let's role play in the West, 18 fucking 79 or whatever, after the Civil War, when all those movies take place at Outlaw Josie Wales. And it took a little time. I adapted, I called it Gunslinger. And the classes would be, Gunslinger, Bandit, um, Sheriff, a law officer, soldier, Barbarian, the class. So I just adapted it for Native Americans. There's probably a couple more I'm forgetting, but that's the gist of it. So it was fun. I mean, and then I made like a little system for duels. We go into the middle of the street and draw, and you do the shootout. What movie did that pretty good? We made a movie out of it. It was Gene Hackman. Was Leonardo DiCaprio in it? Sharon Stone. Damn, I don't remember the name of it, but it had to do with like a duel type tournament, and the best of the best would get together on different days, and you got fucking killed if you lost. Um, so I love westerns, and my passion for it just made me go in and create a system called Gunslinger. Fucking loved it. I had fun. It's a couple years we played that straight, and we still from time to time go back into it. I had to meet various historical figures throughout the years. Um, I think I even put in the regulators from a fucking movie. It was awesome when it came out. I don't know if it holds up. I bet it does. It's fucking good. Emilio Estevez. And anyway, so any genre is good. Any system is worth it, in my opinion. So I wouldn't even be hung up on playing in someone else's world and their rules and their system. But if you're asking me and I'm DMing and you just want to pull out something to say I want to play in the Tron universe, well, I'm probably going to adapt my own version of the Tron universe into Dungeons and Dragons second edition rules with the dice and that whole system. My character sheets are already set. I just, adapt it. Now, if someone comes into the room and says, well, we want to play, but we want to play with these books, and obviously time would have to be given for me to get the hands on it, to understand it, so that could work. But I've been trying to figure out what the long run um, success would be for online streaming role playing, because all right, I gotta admit, I'm not I don't know, to say that I wouldn't like to have an insanely popular channel and lots of people. Yeah, but that was never my goal. My goal was always therapy, it was discipline, it was training. There's another aspect of my creativity. Like I said, if I had all the money in the world, I would still do some podcasts and stuff, but I know I would be writing my ass off, if not trying to get movies made and comic books made, more novels, and continuing the stories that I built and fleshed out. So I'm not really looking for a way to have a successful uh, campaign or role playing thing that makes my channel blow up. No, I'd rather have a successful campaign or endeavor in this, in the sense that a cool group of people just have fun. Every week or so, or whatever it is, we get together and we come with a common goal to have fun, to listen to a story, to find out what it all leads to. And in D&D, it never really ends. What's the ending? I've played characters up to god levels. I've had characters split class and be in the 20s and bolt. And this is like 9 years of playing the same character. I'm not afraid to play in the upper echelons of high level gaming or um, afraid of the drop in quality because there is a difference and there's a change, sure. And that's not saying that people would say, "Oh, I don't like playing with Joe and his high level campaigns." That's fine. I love it. That type of critique is great because it's not for you. Because the tone does change. It becomes more of a story driven thing, more of a intellectual contest. And when I play in Marvel, like you want to play characters like the Silver Surfer or in that league of heralds and between that and Galactus, right? You got that power, and then I put you in an adventure where you're stopping a bank robbery. Well, that's on me. So there is a shift in the tone of the type of games you're playing when you're starting out and you're low level and you're hoping you don't get hit by that 20 and it does damage and you can help your friends in the campaign and you don't want to lose a character that you've had for 6 months. And then there's that point when you get to the level where you're like Aragorn in Lord of the Rings when he's fighting uh, ogres and orcs and goblins. They're nothing to him. He slices through them. It takes 5 attacks per round and he cuts them down. And then when he fights the Urukai, some of them give him a fight one on one. The level, and that's how it progresses in Dungeons and Dragons. You could be 20th level and develop a system where I think it's not like I developed it. It's like I pieced together the best of every system. But if you got a, a low level character, now they turned it into minions. It's like 1 hit point. So as soon as you hit them, they're dead. But that concept. So let's say you're 20th level and you're going up against a 3rd level goblin or 3 hit die goblin. When you roll, if you roll a 16 or over, it's dead. You know what I mean? So you get that system, and there are some classes that perform better at it, like weapons masters and elite swordsmen in that sense. So the tone of the adventure is different in different stages. I think that's normal for Dungeons and Dragons, and it's normal for superheroes or any other thing because if you're in the Matrix and we're playing a Matrix world, and you get to high levels and you get success and you build on it and you get more experience and more powerful. It's the equivalent to saying, okay, well, first Neo couldn't dodge bullets, but then he could dodge bullets, and eventually he stops them cold. He doesn't have to dodge. And then it's up to the dungeon master and the players who help the story along adapt to a new way of playing. So the threats are harder and more difficult, but they can't be the same cookie cutter stuff. So knowing that distinction also gives me an advantage in some sense because, like I said, I've been doing it for 30 years. I've played everything. I went to a rainbow gathering. I don't know if I ever talked about that. Maybe in my podcast I talked about it a little bit, but it's the Rainbow Gathering. I don't know. They sometimes call it 13 Tribe. They do hippie stuff all around the world. I think they still do things. And I was at one. It was like 20,000 people at the height of it, and I had dice and paper and stuff on me. And I went with a friend, and we would play here and there. And then it got into a big circle because in these rainbow gatherings, you have these big Bugs Bunny pots and they'll make big vats of coffee or soups and stuff, and they feed everybody. They call circle, and everybody comes and feeds. It's a bartering system, and I'm sitting there with like 20 people who want to play Dungeons and Dragons. What the fuck am I gonna do? How am I gonna get 20 people and get them all an adventure? I didn't even care about the character sheets. It just started. Everybody here wants to play. Okay, I took I didn't have much paper, so I took a piece of paper and ripped it into little squares, folded up, ripped it into little squares, and just gave everybody a little bit of information. Like, I just went through real quick and say, okay, fight, like fight a thief, whatever. That's it. Everybody knew kind of what their archetype was, and then I just went into the story. And I think I used a cure. They had to bring a cure to a disease that was running rampant in a nearby town or whatever. And the same concept I explained before, if you give them a core of people that they're protecting, those protected people, the NPCs, if you want to call them, can become various characters who come in when they're not scheduled. Or they could be people in the live chat that you can integrate into it. So, um, this might not be a real focused live stream, but I want to get my ideas down, and I've talked about it before. When I first started, I have plans for a couple of things. Like if everything worked out perfectly, and I had camera setups and green screens and better computers, I would be doing more science stuff, and I had a vision for doing those type of things, or green screens and all that type of stuff. But you deal with what you got, and I see no real issue with trying to do something like this. Like even this test right now, I have a music player open for Burton's Music. I have OBS, Discord. I'm in the Discord live chat. Um, I have a Facebook tab. I have like 4 tabs open, and this is practice and exercise and training because I'll know when I listen back how dependable a Wi-Fi is. I did this on Facebook twice, so this will be my first YouTube. Well, no, I did a 2-hour live stream YouTube thing, and I had call-ins and stuff, but I know it's private, I think, or unpublished because it was just fucking garbage. Uh, so you're listening to Joseph F. Ulsis. I am Addiction Master on most social media. This Deadly Addictions channel. I am the author of The Mushroom King, book 1 of the Deadly Addiction Chronicles, which was published in 2012. And with a tragedy and dark times, I found myself a couple years ago coming out of it, and here I am some time later with a YouTube channel that I am dedicating enough time and effort to be proud of what's happening, but aware of what I'm putting out. I don't care about thumbnails, and for the most part, um, the bells and whistles of what's going on. For someone like me, for me, I need the discipline first. I need the scheduling the time, putting in the work, getting the editing done, putting out a certain amount a week. And the live ones give me an opportunity just to rip, and I don't care. I don't give a shit to go back in and cut them down. I care. No, I give no fucks if someone says, "Oh, you know what? This is a great stream. Let's edit it down to 30 minutes." And well, fine, do that. But this one stays up, right? I see value in times of dead air and a little bit of, how do you get to know somebody, to get to listen to them and connect with them? A lot of edited, chopped up stuff sometimes interferes with that. Now, I could be wrong, but it's just how I feel and how I want to do things. You might not be logical in that sense, but it's the way I know I have to structure this and move forward. So, just kind of going back and getting a gist of things, I started out with my endeavor to start role playing online and put some ideas out there. There's a pay up, there's a pay opportunity type place I looked into, and a free one. What you see on the screen is a free one. It's Roll20. People could join for free, join the game. It has its own voice and video inputs, or whatever the hell you call it. It even has an option to have a jukebox and things playing. And as someone who plays with Photoshop a lot, I've been helping out a friend with some game overlays and stuff, which is where I made this one from, this new type layout. I could see myself making my own um, assets for the game. So there you got a horse, you got werebears, a hippogriff, or the dice is still on the screen. So this is probably the system I would probably look for to put some ideas out there. Well, to
No, it's
pay
okay.
up. Does it pay? I would look for the Roll20 system is what I would probably start with. Now that doesn't mean anybody has to join the site. I don't need anybody to join this site, create an account, join the campaign. Now, however, I do have a couple of friends who did. So while we're playing together and it's a private session, we're just in that room with microphones on and we're listening and I'm narrating the story and we're moving our pieces around, random encounters. What do you see? How far in the distance? What the environment is like. So this is what I would use, and it could be as easy as starting with a simple setting. I don't know yet how to transition well with this. So, for instance, right now I'm on this map, and it was a it was a continuation from an adventure that I had written, and it had its purpose and its goals. So, let's say I wanted to switch from this to a bar setting. I want to say, okay, you traveled 3 days to get back. That I don't know how yet. So, I'm hoping, just like an OBS scene or you know, uh, the way I work with Facebook, Photoshop, I could have things ready and set up. So we could start with whoever's in the chat at the time or whoever's ready to play that night. We start in a bar scene, and you got these little indication, these assets representing where you're sitting in a bar and you're talking about things, and obviously then it's up to the dungeon master, right? Then it's up to someone walking in. The Anderson farm's been raided. We need adventurers and whatever. They kidnapped the daughter. And there you go. There starts the adventure for that night, and this would change. And then what you do in these situations is you start them, let's say, outside the town, and they've got to get to where it happened. And then that would progress on this map. And like I said, these things are able to be moved around. You hear me clicking? So that is the visual aid that is real helpful. And then when you get to the location, you um, use functions of the game mechanics to find if you succeed and fail at certain things. So you get there, and your ranger, your tracker, looks for signs, and you find the blood and where it happened, and you piece together, and then you got to track them down. And then when you get to where they're held up, you go to your warrior who has more of the battle skills and gives a plan of action. And your priest or your cleric might give you protections from the gods, or your magician, your mage, your sorcerer gives you protection spells before the battle starts. And when you take it from this angle, I don't think a lot should be placed on the player. Just have fun, get into the groove, enjoy what's going on. Uh, we'll worry about that other stuff as we progress. As the time in between adventures, you can get together and do separate little role playing things. You could, um, I've done it where we started playing and the character came in the middle of everything. Let's say I made him third level, but I didn't give him the experience to get to third level. He has to make it up. So just to have fun, he joins in. We have a great time. 4 hours later, everybody goes home. The next day, he comes over and he's like, "Oh yeah, I had so much fun." Okay, you're not gonna get. You're gonna make up this experience. Let's go back to before you met the group. And then you personalize it and you make it more for them. And you use the people who are really good players. They help everybody. I can't say how much you can value a good player. They make the DM's job so much easier. They carry the story along. They know the feel. They know which characters to watch out for. The guy who really wants to play a wizard and he's low level, but he keeps running up to people trying to stab them with their dagger. Just the right thing. You learn your lesson in the gaming system anyway, but with these little nuances that great players really help with. So it looks like I've been streaming for 114 minutes. I'm doing pretty good on some of the concerns I had about talking for so long, and for your throat getting itchy and scratchy, and especially now, right? I mean, like everything's a fucking uh, a cue for terror or fear, and oh no, I'm developing a cough. Oh no, Anyway, so hour and 15 minutes. I'm doing good. It's 8:24 p.m. for 8/20/20. I'm Joseph F. Ulsis, addiction master on most social media. Playing with the layout, like, so for instance, I could see if we're playing. Right, so I don't have any other ones ready, but Dungeons and Dragons, right? Uh, so next to currently playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I might mess with the layout more. Um, like for whoever's playing that day in the group, I would put in the little area where my avatar is for the smoking monk over there, addiction master. And the live chat is obvious, and I get to learn these things. I just did a quick thing and put it in there. And that could change to currently playing Marvel, DC, or Star Wars, Star Trek, or Gunslinger. And like I said, for the most part, for Dungeons and Dragons, well, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons Second Edition, because Roll20, the site I'm using, the one you see on the screen, you can pick things. So you could start a game, a world, or adventure campaign with Pathfinder in mind, or another system, a role playing system. Even the subgenres, I think some of them are available. And I'm guessing if you pay money, you can get the better things. And I think that's something I like about the site is it gives you a lot of options for free, but will give you the perks when you pay for it and you don't feel like you're too crazy, going out of your way. However, right now we're just using the free stuff, all the free assets, and there's no money involved. This could be altered, I guess, for other systems, so maybe it won't be used per se. And I'd come up with maybe themes for those, but at heart, easiest for me is Dungeons and Dragons. Technical playing is Marvel superheroes because it's easier to get started and less things to keep track of. Um, One thing I like about the Saga system rather than the AD&D system and general dice is the aura reading. So the cards mean something more than what the value is of the number. So you can roll a 20 sider and high is good in this circumstance, low is good in that circumstance, but there's no nuance to it. However, if you're trying to reach a difficulty number with your cards and it is a strength trump because it's green and it has a words on the top which say um, explosive power, thrill seeker. It gives you an idea to link that to their alignment, so to speak, and does it fit the storyline? You could bring it in as a surprise. So there's a way for a dungeon master to be surprised. So that's one of the things when you role play. Technically, the dungeon master knows everything that's going to happen. He knows every plan thing that's going to take effect because he wrote it. But things like that in Dungeons and Dragons are like random events. But you can plan that also because you could have what you call random events, and that means okay. So in between going from the city you're in to the next city, and you're delivering the gold, and the bandits are going to attack you on the second day of travel. That's all that's planned. So when the characters start, one of those characters is going to roll an encounter die. So he'll roll a 10-sider, let's say. If he rolls something, I already know what is random in the area because I picked the terrain, what creatures are in the terrain, what's native to that habitat. To be really random would be to, when that encounter die is rolled, just open up a book and just pick something. But that could lead to calamities. And I've played with dungeon masters who've done this. Everybody starts their second level and you put a creature that cannot be hurt unless you have a magical weapon. Well, no one has a fucking magical weapon, right? Until someone remembers that they have a magical ring and they put it on the edge of a fucking stick and like that you beat them to death. I mean, we've done some crazy things and get ingenuitive, right? Like, okay, well, I can't hit this skeleton, I can't kill him, but I rip its arm off, I could beat it to death with its own arm. Little things like that, and you get your little, you get little hints in the novels too, so that helps. But I guess getting closer to maybe ending this, I'm at 2 hours now. Is the desire to do role playing online with my friends, obviously. The ones, if they want to join me live and make content in that sense, it's fine, but I don't put that pressure on people. It's, not for everybody to be blasted on fucking Facebook and YouTube to my 30 followers. You can get overwhelmed by all the fan feedback and stuff. But I get it. But that shouldn't stop me from uh making some effort in Discord or certain communities and say, hey, look, I'm getting together on every Saturday night, 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, D&D. Then you can play with that. You can say, okay, you know what? Only one of the players is here, but these three people want to play Marvel or superheroes, let's call it, whatever. And that's what we'll do. And hopefully that player who wants to play D&D will play Marvel or superheroes and have fun with it and know that we'll play D&D next week. But even if they don't and they step out, it's okay. So can it be done? Can it be done effectively? I think it can. I think if you have a DM who's willing to wing it at first, but pay attention to certain details, stick to the things that matter, the story, the plot, the interactions between the players, and give them the right cues to draw from. If you're playing in D&D, you could just bring forth any amazing scene from Lord of the Rings. And if you're playing in a Matrix type world and anything from the Matrix, any cues from that really helps bring across that connection to role playing and what your mind is going to bring forth. And it's just a trip. It's so much fun. Adding drugs to it to a certain extent is maze balls. It's just fucking nothing like tripping on mushrooms. And well, I go back to like fucking mescaline and purple double barrels and fucking stars. What was it, yellow stars, red stars, and whatever the fuck it was, and just having a ball. And I think we can do that online, especially now, right? Everybody's stuck in their fucking house, sitting around. Like I said before, I try to connect with people who just have the struggle I have. Like I said, I haven't had an episode in over a year and a half. However, the struggle is every day. It doesn't go away. It's discipline. It's focus. It's restructuring the way you think. And I'm veering away from Dungeons and Dragons for a second, but I think it's important that the smartest people are convinced of the stupidest things. It doesn't matter how smart you are. You're gonna have your biases. You're gonna have all these fucking weird brain things, cognitive dissonance, cognitive distortions, biases. It's just, it's the day and age of that. It's like the internet. Everything's multiplied. Everybody's sitting around and there's worry everywhere. What do? I can't sleep. I can't focus. And some people, like I used to do, just retreat into that somewhat comfortable misery. Just being sad and depressed, sitting home, you know what? Join the group. Do some role playing. Live in a different person's life, and it's you controlling. It gives you a therapeutic advantage to do things and get things out of your system. It gives you a chance for your brain to coast on a really good flow where creativity is bursting at the seams. It's you're taking in. It's like when you read a book and you bring that book to life, and that book will always be your vision of what it meant to you. And then the movie comes out, and it doesn't capture it, or sometimes it might even exceed it. But it happens in your head. It's just how you perceive everything. And I think that's a good way of looking at it. Is the concern of me trying to do online role playing and getting a campaign, I don't think it's knowing every fucking rule in every book. It's not, being able to put my foot down and people make mistakes or they can't do this or they can't do that. That comes in time. That comes with a bond and a relationship between the player and the DM. You get to know how the DM is and when to interrupt him. So that would be something to touch on too. Like a moderation in a debate. The moderator speaks and everybody stops and listens, but when you're the players or you're the debaters, you can get lost in the back and forth. So when you have a session, it's only going to last 2 hours, or someone, we got a time limit on it. How do you, stop two players or having fun, but you want to get to the adventure for the other two people? Or the DM is explaining a crucial part of the dungeon and someone comes up with a real funny joke and makes everybody laugh. There's a balance there. There's a balance between saying, all right, guys, look, we got to get this fucking done with, or laughing along and understanding where that outburst came from, that energy, that, they're their character, they're having fun. So there's a balance there. I think I see way too many mistakes online. If it's not a group that gets together every week and that has their cameras on their tables and they're mic'd up, it loses something even in that. And that translation, I think I discussed it with a friend once. It was like, how could I start a stream in an hour from now with my friends in the middle of adventure? And what are the odds and the probability of people going to get it, catch on, or even care? Right? So, wouldn't I make an event out of it and start characters from scratch? And I think that is a smarter way to go, but that is not the way to start it in its pure form because, like I said, I think talking for 3 hours about a podcast, getting the characters together, getting the players together, spending 3 hours on a character, one portion of a character sheet, and then 7 months later getting back to it is not working. It's not going to work. It never works. So what I think has to happen is when it's up and it's ready and you've got the people together, just go. Tell the story. Ask them the questions. Describe the settings. Maybe at first your experienced players will roll their eyes a little bit and it's a little bit mundane for them. But the good players know that sacrifice. They know when, you know, my weapon is faster and my dex is faster, but you just let them go first. Oh yeah, sometimes as a DM, I will determine who needs the attention at that moment because they've never played before. They're a little introverted. They're not used to asserting themselves in certain settings, and I can see their attention drifting. Or maybe I understand as someone who understands human behavior that they came to the table tonight with real problems, and they're just trying to have fun and get around these issues. So you point those things out, but if you have three people in your Discord or your channel and you're discussing, playing, that's fine if that's the time. But you can't just let the spurts go between weeks and months. It never works. So I find it disappointing in that sense, which is why I'll sit here for 2 hours just talking about fucking nonsense because I can get this out of the way and people could just listen to it and understand, like, you know what? We will get more in depth. We will get our character sheets fleshed out and how did you learn this skill and that skill? Why are you proficient in these types of weapons? Can you forge weapons? Can you make a bow? Can you sharpen? Can you make arrows? Can you fix arrows? I mean, All these little things will come in time. And I don't mind starting an adventure with, a certain amount of people getting into it. And then when it's over and certain people have to leave, that's when you get into the nuances of the game. I mean, there are dozens, literally dozens of times I have seen several different, I don't know, call them communities, whatever, try this exact same thing, and it doesn't work well. It never ends well. All right, so I am at the 2 hour mark. It is 8:39 p.m. 4/8/2020, and it's Eastern time, by the way. I am Joseph F. Ulsis, Addiction Master on most social media, and this is the Daily Addictions channel. I am going to take another break, use the bathroom. This is part of my testing and experimenting. I'll play another song from Burton Gaines' album, All By Myself. And I will get a drink and then join you in a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. All right, that was Even Though, Burton Games, all by myself. I don't know if I'm live streaming anymore. There was a OBS disconnection. I wonder. Okay, so I could be live. I might not be. I'm just gonna go with I'm live. Even if I wasn't, it doesn't matter because I've done 2 hours. But that was Burton Games, Even Though, all by myself. Check out his album, his music. He's one of my best friends. He's a brother to me. And I thank him for letting me use the music. So, where were we? I'm in my third vape session. I'm doing pretty good on drinks. My throat feels pretty good. Some of the concerns I've had doing my testing. And I'm going to just keep blabbing about Dungeons and Dragons and connecting this 2 hour stream to catch up a little bit. I was rounding it out. And I think with the assets and with the online communities, all the things that are fingertips, there should be at least an easy way to get former players and friends who love to play back into it. And that's what I've been doing with the Roll20 system, which is on the screen. It lets you put maps and assets on representing the characters and their environment. And I was thinking about how I would do it for just a random YouTube universe or the online universe. And how would you get a group together, play, and not worry about the little particulars about writing character sheets? I think I finished before the song started and my break about how it's just over and over, way too many times I see a campaign try to start. It gets started up by three people so excited. They used to play D&D. They want to play bad. They want to get their character. They talk about it for 3 hours and nothing gets done. 7 months later, they start working on one other character. One of the other two people's there, but the other one isn't. So I find that type of stuff defeating and just. I mean, yeah, I love because I get excited when I see these streams and these communities do it. I want to join in, and I think I described, I don't know what fucking hour it was, how I will myself, now that I'm a little more social and I'm a little more out there, will get excited and I'll even, I'm in the live chat going, oh, fuck yeah, I'll help, I'll DM, I'll do anything. But they never seem to come to fruition. They seem to just die out on the vine out there. And I think I could do a better job at that to start. Just to, if I'm going to be there and I got players and now that I got this podcast and when it becomes part of the site, people could look at it. Maybe I'll get feedback and maybe I'll be in other communities and I'll be like, oh well, you like playing D&D? Oh, I want to play. And that's happened already. I was talking to another internet friend who I made who said, I was telling her I was doing a test. It was last night, as a matter of fact, that I was with my friend. And she's like, oh, I'd love to get involved. I think her reaction was like, "Want to do a stream for noobs?" Or something to that effect. And I guess that's what this is, maybe. So if you're out there, I guess I did this for you, maybe. Anyway, yeah, new players. I wouldn't worry. I wouldn't. If you're just excited about it, if you like the idea of it, the near therapeutic aspect of it, just to escape for a while, but still keep your cognitive, processes sharp, and you just time's going by, you're not paying attention to it. I think there's nothing like that feeling. Or when it does happen, it's rare, and you hold on to those memories. And that's another thing about we're in a day of social distancing and isolation. Let's play D&D. Let's fucking role play. And I say D&D, and I got it up on the screen, but I want to make it clear that I love playing everything. There's nothing more than I like playing Star Wars and you know I'm DMing, so I'm an NPC and non-player character technically, but I'll make characters up that help the group along and or try to hurt the group. So I say D&D, and it's on the screen because this is what the test I did last night with this site. I wanted to kind of get it out there in case people, are interested. There's a site, Roll20, join for free. It's got its own in-window or in-system voice chat and camera. It's got the assets to help with the visual aid. And in the beginning of this, I went into how the visual aid is not always needed, but it's helpful. It's just like saying before, if we're going to play Lord of the Rings type universe, if I'm giving you a scenario and I'm comparing it to a scene in the movie, sometimes that makes you see the smile on people's faces, the joy, and like what movies do to you and what books do for you, and that's what role playing does for you. It turns your imagination, your own thought patterns, and your own way of processing things into a really fun time and adventure. And I think we could use that now, right? So I've kind of touched base on a lot of things. I got, um, my thoughts and plans, my opinions on the systems, how I favor the second edition rules with the expanded rules and skills and powers. I think the line has a name, but it escapes me at the moment. Like the day comes when I start planning for these things, and I bet the quality is going to improve. But for now, I just like turning my mic on and bullshitting. I'm trying to get used to talking for a while, so this is more than just one type of thing. Yes, I want to talk about D&D, get a campaign going, which I already have a couple going now, but they're not um, consistent, and you can't blame anybody. I think I have only one friend who that isn't single like I am, or no kids and a wife or anything. But everybody else is like, you play for 30 something years and people separate. What a better way in this day and age to bring everybody together when, you just get on the phone, turn on your computer, have an adventure. And like I said, rookies, newbies, cadets, whatever you want to call them, I don't think they should worry. I don't think there's a need to bog things down too much in the minutiae of intricate character sheets and knowing every aspect of it before you play. Even go, let's just complicate the matter. Let's say you got a group of mages or sorcerers, and okay, well, they're all low level. How many spells can they cast? What spells can they cast? Do they even know what spells are? Do we have to go look in the spell book? Do we have to go through all the descriptions of the spells? Do we have to pick schools of magic that they can access? Are we going to limit the spells they have to those schools of access? I mean, these things can be figured out, but I just use a general system. If you have 20 spell points, what do you want to do? I want to burn them. Okay, well, Jet of Flame comes out of your hand. Or, all right, you have 16 spell points left. Oh, can I hold that person in place? I heard about a hold person spell. Well, okay, well, it's going to take more. And you go with it from there. And if you have a DM who's adaptable and who's not worried about all that other stuff, I think it can work. So I think it's really just starting it up and doing it. Afterwards, you hammer the details out. You refine everybody's um, idea of what it is to play the character they're playing with. So maybe when you started and someone was playing a knight or a paladin, and afterwards, they, what, I don't really feel like I'm not acting like a paladin or whatever. Well, I'm not gonna. And now in a normal system, you might penalize that player. In the everyday system, you might go, "Oh wait, you're neutral. You can't do that." I think that's all garbage. I think it's bullshit. Yes, you want to make it part of the. You want to flesh out the characters and give it a rule set and a framework. That's fine. That's awesome. But I believe more like a scale. So yeah, you pick chaotic neutral, but you do good things and things, but you don't get penalized unless you're shifting on major things. And even this does not to be need to be discussed with new players. Right, here, you're a new player. What do you envision yourself being? Like Xena, a warrior? Or you like wizards and warriors, or druids in nature? Magic with the gods, priest? Maybe a thief? Maybe a ranger like Legolas? A hobbit? Oh, I want to be like a hobbit, like a thief. All right, that's it. We're starting. What do you want to play? Oh, I want to play the warrior like Aragorn or whatever. Okay, good. All right, so we got two people playing. I'm DMing. We don't worry about nothing. You're both sitting in a bar, and you hear the door open loudly. And I think I mentioned this before, but the Alderman's farm has been raided, and goblins kidnapped the daughter, whatever it is. Then it's up to the DM, and you guide it along. So I'll say, okay, what weapon do you envision? So like a long sword. I could put two hands on it. Okay, you got that. You got a knife on your waist. You got this much food to travel. Don't bog the players down with it at first, because you're only going to get so many chances to get everybody together in a room to get them interested in the story. And I see too much time just spent on nonsense in that way. So start them in the room. Let them pick the archetype. Let them get invested in the idea of what they are. And what do you see yourself wearing? Oh, I got a green cloak and chainmail armor. Or, I'm a knight, I got that plate armor. And then I know the value of that armor. I know when a creature's going to attack you, what the armor class is. And in time, you will too. In time, you'll understand what all the methods are for, all the mechanics. But what does it really matter when you just want to have fun and you're not sure if you want to play, you want to get into it? Well, just there you go. Ready? All right, so you're walking out, you're walking on the road. Roll 10-sided for initiative. You roll a 7, nothing comes in. I roll a secret dice to see if anything's going on. No, nighttime comes. You go, you find a spot to camp. All right, which one of you takes first watch? Okay, how long are you going to sleep or wake up the other person? Okay, so you're on watch. Is the fire's going low? You got a good spot, a little rock outcropping against your back, and roll a 10-sider for your 4 hours watch. Oh, what'd you roll? Okay, well, you rolled a 6. Okay, I make my roll. Nothing's happening, but you hear skitterings of animals that are in the area. The normal nighttime noises. You wake up Bob, or his character's name is, whatever, fucking Aragorn, whatever we want to call him. And then he does that. You wake up, cook breakfast. All right, who wants to make the roll? All right, your breakfast sucks. All right, you did a shitty roll. All right, gather your gear. You head out. You got another day's travel. You're walking parallel to the road, looking for signs, and you get to the farm by the end of the day. All right. So you get to the farm. Who has any skills that pertain to this? All right, make a check, and I'll just tell you to roll 20-sider, or you're using your dice or your virtual dice or your deck of cards and whatever it is. And that's it. It's just a process of me describing the situation, the environment, and you responding. That's it. So, Mary has the relevant skill for tracking. She says she thinks she knows what direction they went off in. The other character says, we don't have much time left. Within 14 to 18 hours, they usually sacrifice the youngest of the raiding party, whatever. And this is all information I'm giving to make it, more suspenseful. You got a time limit. Now, you just go out there, you travel, you make your checks. Again, do you run into anything randomly? Does a bear come out of nowhere and you stumble upon its cubs? These are the randomness of craziness of the world. But it still relies on the dungeon master narrating a story, giving you descriptions of what's going on, and you just answering and making decisions. So you travel, you're making some checks, you did pretty good, you don't get straight off too long, you find the cave in less than 5 hours, and now you decide to wait and watch the place since you have a little more time, and you're able to figure out that they have a schedule, and they avoid the daylight, and when before the lights go up they stay in shadows, and when it gets dark and you've been watching for a couple of hours, you get an idea how many are there, and then you got to come up with a plan. And then I say, okay, well, you know only of one entrance. One of the players might go, can we search around the area, be quiet, and look for another way in? Sure, go ahead. And then it's the process of doing that. So I might say, roll percentage dice, and I'll explain what they are. And I'll say, okay, you go from shadow to shadow, but you do step on a branch or two. And then I might make a secret roll to determine if that draws attention, or it's just like they think of it as normal wood sounds. So you go around, you find no other way in, and then you're faced with that dilemma. Okay, well, we know at any time there's 3 goblins out front. Who knows how many are inside? So how do we play this? Now, this is where the characters have to make decisions, right? Like, okay, I got my shield and my sword. I'll run in first and I'll just slay everybody. You stay close behind me. We'll go in and get them. Then you deal with what happens after that. What are the ramifications of these decisions that you're making as characters? Now, there are helpful things when you do have the nuance of the character sheet. So let's say you have a character sheet and you have skills that enable you to assess the situation better. You might have a skill from like a pray to a god to get divination to see more than you can see with your eyes. And some spells allow you to ask questions in simple terms and get answers. And this is up to me again, describing things, understanding what archetype, what character you're playing, what it adds to the adventure, and it's your decisions. So you decide to create a diversion and draw them out. So only one of you has a bow. You set a fire and you throw a couple of sticks. As soon as the 2 goblins come in, one goes inside to get more people. The 2 that come after you take quick work at them. You kill them, or you maybe a couple hit you, and then in that process is who goes first. What weapon are you using? Did you hit? Did you miss? And I'll be doing that by dice rolls. Roll 20 sided. Oh, you hit, and then I describe. Oh, you get a glancing blow off the shoulder. You hear bones crunch, but it doesn't take the goblin out. Or you ram him through the chest up to the hilt, and you roll a 20. Anyway, and that's really it. So for a new person, for anybody who's heard myths or things about how complicated a character sheet can get, how intricate and how deep Dungeons and Dragons is, yes, it can be that way, but it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't have to start that way. That could be a progression of the natural players and who's playing, who has the time, who has the resources, who's just on their phone, who's just in front of their computer, who's got kids yelling in the background. I mean, these are things you gotta take consideration. And I'm gonna go back on it about how I see too many of these endeavors just fall flat. So I think it could be done. I think it could be done pretty well. Not sure if I'll be really good at it. I mean, I take some pride in, all the years I've been role playing and being a dungeon master. I have my own method, and I think I do it well. But that's not to say my style is for everybody. So there were times I changed my style on purpose. So I know they got these 2 players and they're like by the book guys. I don't force them into directions. However, I do keep the same plans in mind. If there's something going on in the background and you're avoiding it, that might come back to haunt you. But hey, you want to wander around the woods looking for various animals and stuff, the world is yours to decide where to go. And all that becomes evident when you're playing. And I'm going to say it again, but it goes back to it never gets off the ground. And like, why is that? Because too much time is spent in a format or like social media that delves into way too much of the details and not the story and the fun, the adventure. I want to get you guys out of the bar, on the road, dealing with the weather and the lighting, what how much far you can see, over what hill is the enemy coming from. Do you hear something coming at you first before you can see it? Do you smell it before it comes at you? This is the flavor the dungeon master's got to bring in, and I don't think it's up to the players at first to even have to worry about anything. Bring forth the imagination, listen, envision everything happening, and then you're asked a question, a series of questions. And how do we resolve that? And we resolve it with dice or mechanics that work for that system. If it's a Marvel Saga, it's using the deck of fate. You got a hand size and various suits of cards, and those work in its own mechanic. You have the new fifth edition 20 die or die 20 system. Streamlined, not a lot of dice. Couple of dice you only have to worry about. Easy formulas. High number, these things work. It's just like what flavor works for you. However, I think in any of these systems, anything people are playing, it doesn't need to start with months and months of getting together, hammering out one or two character sheets. Because even if you start with 5 people, it never ends that way. And I'm not talking about like some of the research I did where you find people who play all the time. It's easy to find um, Bob's Campaign, episode 55, and he's got, his people at his house. He's got everything mic'd up. He's got the camera on, wide view of the table. He's got in my case, in some cases, you want a camera pointing down and it shows the miniatures, which is like the resources you see on the screen, but, real little pewter pieces and plastic now, whatever the fuck they are. And that helps you navigate the world. You can see those streams, and some of them are very good. I used to have a lot of fun with the packs. God, what was it called? Penny something. And they had people do Dungeons and Dragons podcast episodes at some of these main events. And sometimes they did it when it wasn't a main event. I think, what's that guy's name? Will Wheaton, who played in Crusher. He was part of the group. And he was like an elf that they let die in acid. And those are great. They're fun because you got the nuance of all these personalities at the table. However, the DM in me is like fucking shaking my head. Like, this is enough. Focus on this. Get this adventure going. Get everybody else drawn in. So I think that's the tact I would take. I would take the opportunity to get a certain amount of people hooked and just start having fun. Describe the situation that's going on. What set this adventure off? Why are we here together? Do you know each other? Did you just meet? And sometimes that'll be all you need. I mean, you could have. I don't mind spending an hour with the characters getting to know each other while they're walking to their destination. You have to get to the castle to get the dogs, the hunting dogs, if you have no one has a tracking skill. And you have to spend half the day walking there. I'd rather do that than, okay, here's strength, here's dex, here's con, these are the number values, this is how it works. And now you got these skills and you got proficiencies and you got weapon specializations and these specializations, and they add to this system. So okay, you got a sword and it hits with a +2, you get a +2 to hit, +4 to damage, and your armor class is 2, but it's 6 when you're standing still. And your Thaco with a bow is different than your Thaco with a sword. All these nuances, which make second edition particularly complicated, are there to lesser degrees in almost all the other systems. But I think that's the biggest mistake they make, in my opinion. I want to see, and I've tried to join. I'm like, let's just start. And no one's ever taken that opportunity because, like I said, I lurk most of the time. And if I'm not an asshole in some fucking debate forum that I just am not interested in, but I like to look out for people in that some way. I'd be there saying, "Let's go. We got 3 people here. I'll start. I'll DM right now. Right now. I'll make up the story right now. I don't care. Let's go." But it never gets in. It never gets picked up on. It never gets initiated. So maybe I'll just start it myself. Have a day. Have a adventure planned. Even if it becomes fucking story time. Even if I get up and I get on the mic live and go, okay, it's Saturday night, D&D time. We got no players today, but I'm gonna fill you in on the story that's going on in the background. So, like I said, I plan usually like a 3-tier system when I write. So I'll write the immediate important things to the characters that are created who are playing in the room, and the environment in the world gets fleshed out. And then there's the what goes on without them. It progresses through time over sometimes long time spans, and the little hints you give the characters throughout the adventure. So I could see playing 1 week and 2 people show up, and then I go, you know what? There's no one here. So what I'm gonna do is tell a story about Kedrick the Wise and how he became twisted by dark forces in the forest. And this Kendrick the Wise, that was his name. He's got new nicknames. Well, I make them go along. And then it fills in this has become corrupted, and that corruption is spread, and it's now prevalent, and it's causing impacts that your characters are witnessing, right? And I would probably even do that. I could see just that night just being a storyteller, right? That night just saying, okay, that's the story. And then when the characters come in, maybe they listen to that podcast and maybe they go, oh shit. And then it could be, that's the story the bards told in the tavern that night. So even right now, making this shit up on the fly, I already got a cool idea because I didn't think about it when I started this. So I could actually say, okay, we play, I get going, we do what we got to do, I get started, I focus on the things that I think are important, but then no one shows up next week. All right, no one shows up next week, but that week I tell a story in the tavern while they're sitting there, and they're the characters that are there, they're listening, and they fills them in on the story. And actually, I think that's a really good idea. And if I never get my at almost all times I have a pencil and a little sticky thing. But for some reason, when I get fucking ready to podcast and I make certain room for things that I'm gonna need, and I never remember to put the pencil and paper in front of me. But there you go. I'm learning. So I wish the thing would tell fucking minutes, by the way, because telling me I'm streaming for 2 hours and I'm like streaming for 2 hours and 40 fucking minutes, I don't know, but that would be nice. That would be better. Okay. Wow, how close was I? I guessed, by the way. And it says elapsed time because I went to another page. It's 2 hours and 44 minutes and 47 seconds. So I'm actually fooling myself because I'm thinking it's fucking only 2 hours have passed by. Like, oh yeah, you know what? I've been streaming for 2 hours. No big deal. I'm blabbing about fucking Dungeons and Dragons. I'm bouncing back and forth from every fucking topic that comes to me that I keep remembering. So I'm Joseph F. Olsis, Addiction Master on most social media. This is a Daily Addictions channel, and I am blabbing about Dungeons and Dragons, particularly Advanced Dungeons and Dragons 2nd Edition, which I favor over others. I played in every system, and I currently play with another friend who's DMing in 5th Edition. And I play a rogue. I forgot what I was branching off into. I think I was at the point where I was going to pick the next stage and branch off. So I'll play in anything. I love playing in anything. I just prefer the 2nd Edition player options. I think that's what it is. Player options, skills and powers, and there's a whole character point system, and you could do anything. And you got certain players, right? Who you look at how everything changed, and I'll give an expression. There's a thing in the I don't know what you call it. I guess it's the lore of the old books, let's say, where a mage is restricted to daggers, no big bladed weapons, and they have staffs, and they can't wear armor. But you know what happened when the Lord of the Rings movies came out and Gandalf started fucking wielding a sword? Why can't my fucking mage have a sword, right? Why are all these restrictions? Well, they're there for a reason, fine. It's part of the system. But with the character point system, you get a certain amount of points to make your own type of character. And that's what I love about the player options. You got character points, and you can go, okay, you know what? I have a little bit of elven blood. I want to take the elven eyesight. I want to take the barbarians leaping, and you're going to pay extra for it, right? Because it doesn't fit in your, it's like, choosing outside your specialty area. So you're going to want to, I just noticed something, got a little distracted. So when you do want something that, is not in the wheelhouse of your character, it's going to cost more. And that's how the character points work. And I think it's such a great system. It's so versatile. I mean, so versatile. And for instance, you got characters in the books who, authors in these Forgotten Realms and these Dragonlands type with Dark Sun and Spelljammer, Planescape, all worlds I've DM'd in, I've created campaigns for, and others too. Oh, see, I got fucking distracted again, motherfucker. Alright, I guess approaching the 3 hour mark, I can get easily distracted. And now I'm not sure what I'm talking about. Interesting. No, gotta note that one down too. So, the nuance with these authors is they put their own spin on things. So, you'll have a mage who becomes hugely popular in a series of books. Let's call him Elminster, Forgotten Realms. And his method of casting and stuff is based on the system, and it seems to fit right in. And these other characters are in the books, and they've got spells named after them, right? Mordekainen's sword and things like that. But then a character comes along, a beloved character, hugely popular and famous in a sense, Raceland Magier from Dragonlance, and he doesn't cast like a normal person. And in normal rules, he doesn't fit into this archetype. So, in some of these expansion rules, they start thinking of these things, and they got channelers and warlocks and different methods of spell casting. So, where some characters have a spell book, they put a certain amount of spells in that book, they memorize them, and that's what they're limited to. Some people can choose what to do with the energy, with any of the spells they have. Some people do it, and it drains their stamina. So all these little nuances could be, they're put into the game from all these realms. And again, it's the DM's job. It's their job to convey these images and these feelings and environments that he's trying to bring to life. And it's the player's job just to have fun and interact. What's going on? Why? Can I do this? Can I pick the lock? And and then you have an experienced player next to you who goes, "Did you check it for traps first?" And you're like, "Uh oh." You get to learn. You learn, and yeah, maybe I'll kill you with the poison if it pricks your finger with a needle. You gotta make a saving throw. Oh, what's a saving throw? Don't worry, just roll I'll tell you, roll a 20-sider, and you hit the virtual dice, or you have dice with you, and you roll your 20. You tell me what the number is, and you succeed or fail on that. And I guess as I'm ending this, getting near this 3 hour mark, I'm thinking more of alleviating the rookie anxiety, or the people who are interested, who want to participate but don't want to get bogged down in things. And I say, don't worry about it. you want to sit there and listen, and you're just listening to the adventure, and you're cooking your food and you're doing your stove. And I mean, that's awesome. I use so many types of podcasts for doing stuff like that, from washing my clothes and whatever. So it depends on the input you want to put in and how much you want to get involved. And I see no problem with having people who could just use their phone, join in for a couple of hours, you know, answer questions or get descriptions, fit in. I mean, and I explained a little bit of this before, but it's knowing when to speak up, when to interrupt the dungeon master, when to, make funny jokes for no reason. That stuff is encouraged. But what you'll start to see is people settling into a rhythm. You know when the DM's talking and when he's slowing down, and you don't see the things that are cues at the table, right? So if I end a sentence from a character saying something and I look at the group like, okay, guys, I raise my eyebrows, that's not going to be conveyed over the internet without a camera and some such. So, you got to think of ways to emphasize that. And once you can figure that out, it's the DM's issue. It's the DM's problems to deal with. Players should just be able to come into a room, get on. If they want to get on the mic, become a character. Just at first, pick the archetype. Okay, yeah. What do you envision yourself being? I'm a thief, or like I said, hobbit. All right, choose a name. All right, we got your name. All right, we're gonna start. Here's what weapons you use. Is anything you could think of? Oh, you know what? How much food do I have on me? Oh, you have enough to travel for about 2 weeks, but it's rations. It's not like, um, you know, delicious dinners. It's like fucking dried fruits and, flatbreads and things like that. And these things will grow. These things will expand. Then you might have your character sheet, and it'll tell you exactly what you have on it, and the two spare daggers you have, and the do you have pots and pans to cook? You have a big backpack on you, like, um, what is Sam used to carry all the shit in his backpack. And there are systems and mechanics for that, but I don't think you need to worry about it. Like, we're gonna start, and you want to carry all this stuff. Yeah, one of the experienced players might turn and go, that's gonna slow you down, right? What do you mean? And then you can explain. Well, no, my strength is strong enough. Look, I have a weight allowance, and I'm under that. So, right, DM? No, you're right. Yeah, you won't be slowed down. And all these little things, all the in-depth things that make D&D amazing, can be added on. Can just be fit in at the right time and place. So if we're going to have an adventure and restart, people are joining and coming and going. I don't want to burden players with, having to have their dice handy. Um, can they open up a virtual dice thing, website? Some people might just have enough time and they're on their phone. They can't do anything but hold the phone to their ear and talk. And like I said, I would see that as my job. Okay, I'll roll the 20. And it's random. It's a die generator type thing. Oh, you rolled a 14. You smash him with your mace and crack his skull. Anyway, I guess I've been bouncing around and trying to focus on certain aspects of it. And I keep coming back to this, and it's how I envision a DM, a dungeon master, game master might need to evolve in this day and age. I think we could be much more useful and helpful and have fun if we just sat back and let everything um, start and snowball and get bigger. Not, starting with this huge, you're trying to make an ice sculpture of a fucking town. People want to play. What do they envision themselves playing as? What type of character? And for that matter, what world? I know I focus on Dungeons and Dragons, and I've been doing this for so long. I'm trying to bounce around, but it's not only Dungeons and Dragons that I'm talking about. This idea, this type of method, would work for Star Wars, Star Trek, um, Gunslinger, or Westerns. People do it for world wars or um, particular historic events and time frames. So Rome, and most of the Dungeons and Dragons stuff out there used to be for that. You'd have your books that are, Charlemagne and the Knights Templar, or around the time the 300 were, all that type of stuff. You could build everything and frame your world and your time, the the landscape you're in, and know that as a DM, all the stuff you write can be washed away instantly by ingenuitive players. You could write days worth of shit, have it ready, and just by sheer luck, happenstance, the character bypasses all that. Or for instance, last night adventure was that the adventure that was to continue was to eventually find the hippogriff and study its environment and it in it. And he had someone along with him that was going to document and learn also. He had his horse and he was traveling to the cliffs off the sea, and he was gonna go because he knows about the area. Like I said, he's a little more advanced. He might be like, I think he might be like fourth level, maybe. So we played for a while. So the plan was, on the way there were tracks to pick up, but the tracks were supposed to be odd because they were bear tracks in a terrain where the bear wouldn't normally traverse. So that would be up to the player to find the tracks, and then depending on the rolls he makes and the rolls they make, to determine if they perceived this information right. That was going to lead them to werebears, who are like werewolves and stuff. They're creatures that can turn from bear and change their form. And that's how you would find out that how bear tracks can get on certain areas that it wouldn't seem normal. What happens is we start playing, and his first encounter roll is a 1. Now that's usually a encounter of some sort, without a doubt. Most DMs will say if we roll a 1 on 10-sider, it's going to be an aggressive one, but it doesn't have to be. Then I roll a corresponding dice to see how close I am to that roll, or if it matches it exactly. And circumstances show that he stumbles upon the werebears, and they're getting ready to ambush and attack him, but he wasn't surprised. So, like a 45-minute part of the chunk of the adventure of finding tracks, figuring them out, and seeing if he catches on that, hey, why are bear tracks in this area? As a DM, you give him the right hints. All that writing was done. And there had nothing happened with it. So you can plan, you can write for months, you can write for weeks, you can write 50 pages of stuff, and the players will just fuck all, give no fucks, and bypass certain parts. Like huge days of writing and drawing out things that, like, because of a certain role, the ingenuity of a player, the blind luck of a die roll. So with that in mind, I think it's a good idea to go ahead and start maybe a stream and get a system going where I'm just ready to start right from scratch. No fucking bogged down in creating huge character sheets and wondering where all this information is going to get absorbed and who knows more than the other person. Hey, if you have experience, you help out the other players, that's the type of person you are, fine. If you have a lot of experience and you just keep sighing into the mic and getting upset at people, then that's not going to work. But if you're coming together to have fun, you want to get together an adventure, we should just start. You want to get into an adventure, if 3 people respond to me that they want to play superheroes and they want to play themselves with superpowers, I'll make up a scenario. I've done it before, numerous times. If they want to play in a Star Wars, want to play, like I said, I could repeat this over this 3 hour podcast, but maybe it's important, or I'm just really fucking stoned and wired and vaped. But at least I ate before this time, so I have no fucking hunger pains. I'm not really flipping the fuck out like I was the last time. So it looks like I've hit my 3 hour mark, and I'm deciding on what I should do. These little milestones for me are indications of, like, can I handle. So I'm a big Howard Stern fan. I found him in the early 80s, and I was like 12 years old, and I've been a fan ever since. And can you talk? Now, he wasn't always alone, but in general, can you talk? Can you keep your voice going? Not worrying about being interesting or funny or any of that particularly, although it would help. But I don't think you need that online. I think, people will gravitate, they like you or not. They like the sound of your voice or not, the cadence and the way you pronounce. I mean, it gets so complicated, human. So I've hit the 3 hour mark. Feeling great in that sense. I'll take a drink right now. I don't feel exhausted or out of ideas. However, I might go back and look at this and see how many times I've touched on the same thing, and was it a good reason? So I don't know. What is that? Hold on, I'm gonna check something now. All right, it looks like I'm still live. So now that I hit the 3 hour mark, I'll just sit around, not focus too much because I think I'm starting to repeat things. If something occurs to me, a pointer about playing Dungeons and Dragons, and I'll definitely mention it. Maybe I'll definitely end it with another of Burton songs. But let me check things before I end this. Oh, Shannon Q's gonna regret going up against me live. You don't know how many people you're losing to me right now. Oh shit. Oh, you're fucking live 24 hours a day, GDC. Fuck you too. I'm fucking stealing everything right now. And I gotta be careful on that, right? Because if I click on things, I gotta mute things quick because I get in trouble for. I don't know. Am I allowed to do that? I don't know. They got fucking rules everywhere. What rule is what? But I guess I can't. I'm not sitting in there, but let me see if the normal fucking characters are there. Oh yeah, they're there. No, I tell you, I get fucking. I get so fucking. Hey, let's avoid that. Oh, hey, come on. All right, so I guess I got it. There's a. You gotta be careful of a delay since I have everything running. But let's look. Yeah, this guy's probably nice, but he's somewhat of an asshole sometimes. Although that's more like a bias of mine. Yeah, I see. Oh, Spooky's in there. Spooky! Spooky's awesome. Spooky bed hair. I forget because I don't get the alerts no more because it just runs 24 fucking 7. If anybody's interested in the GDC, the Great Debate Community, it's to 24 hours 7 now. Check out the Anti-Ordinary Network. Wish there was a lot of other people. Cosmic Ascent. Uh, Spooky. Spooky has fucking if he had a fucking lots of content, he'd be probably famous. He's got an awesome voice. All right. So I was just doing a check and going through my Facebook. All right, let's do Twitter. We're gonna make this a habit before I end streams. You never know when my fucking fans and listeners and stuff will start bombarding me with questions and feedback, but I gotta be prepared, so I'm gonna practice it now. Getting ready to end the stream, I'll just look around, see if anybody's telling me to go fuck myself, and you know, you don't get to be the good guy if you're acting like an asshole. Yeah, okay, whatever. Not that anybody said that, but I know that a couple are thinking of it. Alrighty. Oh, perfect timing. I'm running out of this batch of weed. This is fucking awesome. And I was finished eating right at the end of Burton's first song. Developing skills. Thank you, the Drunken Monk. The Drunk in Monk. Twitter. My trailer review partner. All right, I've been going for over 3 hours. I feel good. I think the experiment went well. I hope the information came over well. I noticed a couple of problems, particularly with my internet and connecting to OBS, so I hope that'll work itself out. And when I listen back, it'll be really good. It'll be streamed well, and I won't sound like an asshole because I don't edit these fucking things at all. Well, you know what? No. My Facebook live stream, I fucked up. And by the way, how I fucked up on this stream when I first started was when I do my Facebook live stream, I start my fucking OBS. It gives me information on how good my signal is, what's showing on the screen, and then says go live. Like there's a button that says go live. I'm setting up my Facebook. I'm trying to figure out YouTube. I'm trying to figure out how to set the event for a time. And I start the OBS. It just starts streaming. I don't know what the fuck went over on those first couple of streams. I don't know what the fuck got out there. But I privated it and maybe I'll delete them. But I'm playing around trying to figure out, I've only did this like once or twice. Once was like almost 2 hours. And I remember it being pretty fucking easy. I thought there was a go live button. I thought it would let you know your signal, your strength. But maybe I didn't notice it. And YouTube's changing all the fucking things, studio modes and stuff like that. However, I apologize in that case if I fucked up. I hope this has been smooth. I hope I made some sense. Anybody wants to give me any feedback, DM me, respond in the comments. I have a Discord. Did I? Oh, okay. I have a Discord link. Does that work? Is it like an invite? Or is it just. Anyway, you can find me on Discord. Mindful Meditations is my server. I'm Addiction Master. Anyway, chats, if you heard this, you want to talk to me, you want to think about playing, get in touch and we'll work something out. Like I said, I'm not worried about character sheets, and I just want people to have fun and enjoy a fun story and adventure. And I think we can do that soon, quickly, with no effort. Effort on my part, but that's my job as a DM. And we can progress into the nuances and the complexity of character sheets. And genres don't matter. So I'll say that again. Star Wars, Marvel, superheroes, whatever it is, we could put together. So I'm going to end it with another song from Burton Gaines off the album All By Myself. Check it out. Good friend, great guy. And I'll see everybody soon. Take care and stay healthy.